Here we are again with another live show. Hello everybody. Things are good. Things are good. So we're gonna do this. This is okay. Make sure that everything is all right. So here we go. On this rainy Montreal day, we are now live to the world. And here we go. Hey everybody, welcome aboard. This is the Shortwave show of the Friday. And we are at every Fridays at 2000 hours UTC. And basically we are here to entertain, talk about radio, have fun. If you have a Gmail account, there's a great gang in the chat room. Really good people that are just there to have fun with all of you. And, you know, even answer questions. Of course, you can also ask questions in the chat, basically. One other chat that I will open up that I just thought of. Let's open up the IRC chat room also. For those that still use that, which is quite all right. And here we go. Getting in there. And here we go. Hello everybody. So we are really having some incredible weather coming up in the next 24 hours here. We've gone from like -20 to about +10. Right now it's like +10 Celsius. It's raining, it's windy, and by the end of the show it might already be at sub-zero and snowy. And so basically the rain's going to change to freezing range, then to some snow, heavy snow, lots of winds, and we should have a foot of snow by tomorrow afternoon. Amazing weather, I can tell you guys that. So nice to have everybody on board. So this shows every week, 2000 hours UTC on Fridays. The last Friday of the month we have the satellite and or VHF, UHF scanner radio type show, so just remember that. And it's always nice to be here, really cool to be here. And basically we have a lot of fun. Here's a visitor that wants to say hello. Wanna come here, man? Come and say hi. Allez, Yeta. He's looking at me like, what do you want, human? So anyways, nice to see everybody on board, and we are here to talk about radio. Hello there, Steve in Australia. Here's Mr. Cat. Here we go. Let's just put the camera down a little bit. So here's Mr. Cat saying hi to everybody, and want to join in the fun. So nice to have you on board, and pretty cool to have everybody here. The people that were in the picture right there are my mom, my two sisters. It's a picture that dates back to about 15 years. 15 years. So pretty cool. What is my drink? It's vodka and cranberry juice, because I have vodka left from the other day. So cheers everybody. Thought that be a change from the beer. So it's vodka and cranberry juice. So today we're gonna tune the bands a little more than usual. We don't have any specific subjects. A few questions. Some people asking questions about number stations. And actually, there was an article today that popped up on I don't remember what chat, and talking about number stations and all of that. So we're gonna talk about that. 11175, by the way, has been extremely active in the past 30 minutes. I'd say that probably 20 of the 30 minutes communications from 11175, which is the global HF US Air Force. It's it's pretty amazing the amount of activity that's there today. In the past, there's activity right now. Just crazy, and I mean, wow, really, really, really amazing. So actually, what I was looking at the, that's the fun of the SDR. I was looking at the waterfall, and I saw that there was a little something here, and I said, oh, that looks like the global HF, U.S. Air Force HF. And so I tuned there, and I've been there for the past 35 minutes. So, yes, we were going to talk about SINPO. Absolutely, Bobby Burgess. And if I haven't talked about it in a certain moment, just repost SINPO, please. We want to know SINPO. We're going to talk about that. Okay. Hello there, everyone. We're going to say hi to everybody in the chat. Bobby Burgess, hello there. Ronald Zuccella, nice to have you on board with Receiving WWV, and is brand new on his new Texan PL 880. So far, so good. Pretty cool. Kevin Y, nice to have you here. What's the best coax for shortwave? Shortwave is interesting for that. It doesn't require really, really fancy coax, because the loss of those frequencies is very low. But a good quality coax that is well shielded, so that you shield yourself from the maximum amount of interference, that's probably the best. There's MTK2 that says Quad Shield RG6. So, I got RG, I think it's RG8 I've got here, something like that. And, it's pretty cool. So, yes, I will tune the bands, PLF Radio, absolutely. Nice to have you on board from France. Radio Hobbyist, hello there, nice to have you here. We have Nicola Milnes, nice to have you here. MDK2, of course. Woolman Outdoors. Paul Swift, hello there with PL600. Anyone know about batteries for the PL600, the Texan? Well, just regular, good quality, AA nickel metal hydride rechargeables. Really, really good. Neil Thooms, nice to have you here. Cheers. Pavel Lysenko, nice to have you here. Manny CV from California. What else do we have? Juan Amigo, comment está? Fabrice Simonet, bonsoir, bienvenue, welcome aboard. Judd Simon, nice to have you here. KM4UBR. Pujo Jojo, hello there. Current 45 mile per hour, where he is for the winds. Neil Toombs is in his M0CJM from Hampshire, UK. Nick Hammondell from Romania. Jeff KD5QDO, nice to have you here. Venster Bank, hello there. Rob Webster. Jerry, nice to have you on board. Brad Wayne, hello there, nice to have you here. What else do we have? So yeah, here it's raining a lot. There's water everywhere. It's just crazy right now. What else do we have? What else do we have? If I missed out on anybody, say hello. Hello from Romania. I can't really read what's your name, but hello there. Mr. Hossam, nice to have you here. Bobby Burgess, of course, is shortwave listening call WA5107 shortwave, or SWL. Anybody I've missed, say hello, please. Want to say hi to everyone. Morrison AV, hello there. Pretty cool. Sparky's Spogolium, nice to have you. Sparky's in the ham house, pretty cool. Nice to have you on board. Duffar74, nice to have you here, Duffar. Steve says 6739 and 8992 coming in Australia, pretty cool. There's a lot of activity. There's still activity going on right now. If you guys want to tune in, 76739, 8992, 11175, 13200, 15016 are all frequencies you can try. So nice to have here. KC9KUH, hello there. Michel Puka, nice to have you here. Yeah, he does love, you know, he's a very, very friendly cat. So he's kind of very, very attaching. And, you know, when I go to bed, he has to cuddle up next to me because he just doesn't want to sleep alone. He's a great little cat. What else do we have? Bobby is monitoring the River chat for pirate activity. Rod Xav, hello there from Uruguay. Nice to have you here. This is so cool to see people from around the world joining in. Randall Klantz, try 15610. Yeah, it's pretty, if you're talking of WWN, it's pretty strong. It was very strong earlier, 15610. And DK2 says 15016 and usually weak right now. Wonder where this one is originating. Better copy on 13200. I've tried several, and it seems 11175 was pretty much the best for me. But it's not very strong compared to what I am usually hearing them. So it doesn't seem to be as strong as usual. So pretty cool to have everybody here. So of course we'll answer a few questions and hope you guys enjoy the show today. Before we continue, of course, tomorrow is another show. So tomorrow we will be live again. Tomorrow the show is dedicated to something that a few people wanted me to really talk about more in detail. So tomorrow it's going to be solar activity, and we're going to talk about what causes solar activity, what and some of the important events that happened with the sun in the past several hundred years. We're going to talk about the state of solar cycle 24, which we are right now, and one also of the reasons why tomorrow I want to talk about that. I've just read the brand new report coming out of NASA about how their predictions for solar cycle 25, which should start somewhere around 2019, 2020. So until then, we'll be at the minimum, and so you guys will probably learn a lot of details on how the sun works, and it's going to be pretty cool. So as MDK2 is mentioning 15016 unusually weak, I'm getting on 15016 I'm getting echo. So I'm getting like not only from the direct, but I get like the long pad at the same time. So it's kind of there's an echo. It's kind of interesting. Crooked Ninja 5, nice to have you here. Bobby Burgess is receiving 8992, but weak. So pretty cool, and nice to see everybody on board. So tomorrow, like I said, there's a show. We're going to talk about solar activity for sure. Rod Sav says, have you heard of KZ4, new Australian shortwave broadcaster? Yeah, on I believe it's 5045 or something like that in the 5 megahertz range. I haven't tried it, actually. I really need to wake up early and try it out one morning. I've seen a lot of reports of people across North America actually receiving that station. So I really need to try it. Bobby Burgess says 11175 looking okay. Pretty cool. KD5TTZ, nice to have you here. Figured out how to change my screen name. Haha, you were Pujo Jojo. Okay, KD5TTZ, nice to have you here. And with your call sign. So, hey, I haven't done a lot of radio listening in the past week. One thing that I wanted to do was to check out the new frequency of WRMI. They've moved their evening North American frequency from 11580 down to 7780. But I haven't had a chance at all this week to really listen to that. I've been extremely busy this week and kind of not been home a lot. So it's kind of, you know, one of those things where, here we go. So it's one of those moments where there's not a lot of listening, and I hope to do more and maybe listen more this weekend for sure. Apart from that, we've had very low solar activity, so it's really showing off. I've been tuning the bands, you know, like local 8 or 9 p.m. local time, which is like 01, 0200 UT. And man, the bands have been really quiet on the. There's almost nothing above 7 or 8 megahertz. So there's a lot of listening of the 80 meter band for sure, and the low frequencies for sure. Bob Corgi, hello there. Richard Cook, nice to have you here. Good evening. Hello there from Syria. Love internet Wi-Fi DXing. So nice to have you. The modern DXing. Listening to farthest network of from his area. It's a modern way DXing, we can say so. Hey, SY1AQV Spyros from Athens, Greece. Nice to have you here. Happy New Year. 10 p.m. local time over there. Best wishes for you too. So I'm going to try 7780. Let's check out 7780 WRMI. Barely making it. It's barely making it here on my SDR. Barely. Let's try the different frequencies of the U.S. Air Force 15016. Let's check that one. Very weak. 13200. Seems to be the best. Yeah, definitely 13200 here. It's kind of the best right now. Crazy how active they are today. I don't know what's up and coming, but man, I don't know if it has to do with some of these interesting comments of Donald Trump yesterday, but it's pretty crazy. What else do we have? Paul Swift. What frequencies are the feds? There's a lot of frequencies. I know that there's a lot of frequencies for everything that is, you know, the FBI and so on in the United States. The best, you know what, I see a lot of those frequencies pop up regularly on one publication that's really good, that I stress out. If you really like radio and want to have as much information as possible, including frequencies like, you know, for the federal police or whatever, there's really a lot of information that pop up from time to time in the Spectrum Monitor, which is an amazingly good publication. It's $24 US per year, and it's an electronic publication, so you get it in PDF. I subscribe every year. I think it's this year I think it's the 3rd or 4th year that I'm actually subscribed to them. It's very nice, and there's a lot of cool stuff, a lot of interesting info in there. If for those, I regularly see people saying, hey, I miss Monitoring Times, that magazine was so good. Well, it's Monitoring Times, basically. It has a feel, it has there's a lot of the Monitoring Times gang that are in the Spectrum Monitor doing articles, and it is absolutely, you know, the only thing I know, for some people getting a electronic version is not what they like, but you know what, it's the modern way to do it. You know, a magazine like that, if it would be on paper, would cost you know, twice the price. It'd be at $50 or $60 a year for the same thing, you know. So you know, it's kind of nice, and you know, it's the time to subscribe. You'll get the first issue of January, because subscriptions always start in January. So even if you subscribe in July, you subscribe from January. It's the way they work, because it's easier for them to kind of manage all of that. Great publication. I can't stress out enough, basically. SG2 East Nebraska, nice to have you on board. 15 Fahrenheit, wind chill 5 Fahrenheit. And that's going to be kind of what we're going to have, even colder this weekend here. The latest numbers for solar flux is 71, K-index of 2. That's not too bad. Nice to have you here. My friend on the IRC chat. John Timken, no need to be sorry because you're late. At least you made it. That's the important thing. What I find sad every time I do these shows is when I start winding down, because I know I'm going to kind of leave, and you get these people that just arrived like 5 minutes before I end the show, and I'm like, oh man, I'm so sorry. You just arrived as I'm just saying goodbye to everyone. Luis Arevallo, nice to have you here. Have a hard time listening WRMI 9955 probably. I'm from Los Angeles, so I got QSL card. 9955 is actually, I think the antenna is pointing like through Central South America. So it's actually sending the signal away from us. That's why 9955 doesn't have a really good signal up here in North America. And there are other frequencies that are better, like 5850. I think it's generally West Coast, and 7780 is kind of East Coast. So these are more of the frequencies to listen to, I would guess. For sure. KB5WQW, howdy, nice to have you here on board. But it's, yeah, 9955 probably what he means. You gotta sometimes read in between the lines. Kevin and wife found 100 feet of RG6 quad for 35 bucks on Amazon. That's not bad, not that bad of a price. You know, I've got here a electronics store very near me, and you know, I can get there's coax, there's all the types of wires that you can dream of that are over there, and the price has been going, you know, it's been going up for coax and for you know, any type of wire in general at a really fast pace. It's crazy how the prices are going high. 35, not that bad. Not that bad of a price for 100 feet. I mean, if I take 100 feet, I believe 100 feet at that store, if I did see it, 100 feet was something like 50 bucks. So it's actually less expensive to buy it on Amazon. And you get it shipped at your home. It's pretty cool. Richard Cook says, usually get early RMI at sunset here on 7780. Steve in Australia says 4724 here also, but nothing on 13 to 15 megahertz. Early for higher frequencies, yeah. Hey there, Douglas Perry, nice to have you on board. Wood Guy 808, what is that program you're running there? So just to kind of recap everything, and I'm just going to say my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, because I always get somebody somewhere saying, hey, where are you from? You never say it. So I am in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So I am running the AFEDRI SDR, AFEDRI software-defined radio. It's in my office, plugged into my router with a cable, an Ethernet cable. And I'm receiving it here throughout my home network, but via Wi-Fi on this machine. Now the only way that I really get it working well with Wi-Fi is to use the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, because it has a wider bandwidth, so it actually has a faster speed. When I actually get down on 2.4 gigahertz, I have to actually put the waterfall at a smaller, because here I have 600 kilohertz of spectrum right now. If I put 2.4 gigahertz, or you know, if I plug in with the N protocol, actually there's too much data. I have to actually, you know, kind of close it down to more like you know, 200 or 300 kilohertz in order to have it working all the time. So basically the software here running is HDSDR, which is one of my preferred software to run my SDR. And basically what you have is you've got the mean frequency that I'm tuned to. The frequency on top here is the middle frequency. So if you look here at the center frequency, 13190 is dead center of my display. 13200 is where I'm actually tuned to. And of course here you see the different signals off the frequency. The frequencies are here. So I'm receiving right now around 12900 to 13500. And you have all the signals. And it's really cool because, I mean, I have found so many signals thanks to the fact that you can see the signals in the waterfall. And I gotta say, that is the main advantage of a software-defined radio. The fact that you can immediately see that something has popped up in a specific range of frequency. I'm totally amazed because I have heard, you know, for example, I would not have tuned the US Air Force Global Command frequencies if it wasn't that when I actually I was looking for the Royal Air Force on 11 megahertz, which I was hearing very weakly, and I saw that not very far from it there was a signal, and when I looked it was like, oh, this is the there's something happening on the global US Air Force Global Command frequencies. And that's where I noticed today that there was a lot of activity. So, you know, it's really cool for that. It's an amazing thing. So it's HDSDR, to just answer your question of what software this is. Bobby Burgess says, what was your first reaction when I first heard of software-defined radios? Being a computer literate guy, being someone that loves playing around with technology, the first time ever that I've seen a software-defined radio was in the good old days with the Win radios that were the cards that you would actually put in the PC in the tower. And it's been a long time since I've seen a software-defined radio. Back in the 90s. And I remember they were super expensive, but I remember thinking, oh, these are so cool, I'd like to have one of those eventually. And what's cool today is that back then you needed a lot of cash to get one. Today you can have very inexpensive software-defined receivers. And that is cool because it opens up the world of SDRs to everybody. I mean, you can get, you know, a cheap RTL SDR dongle for not even $10 shipped to your home, and you can get you know, tons of other, you know, in between, like the Soft 66. Soft 66 RTL3 isn't expensive. It's like $40, and you got something that actually covers shortwave and is, you know, not the best, but it's decent enough to actually work well. And of course, as you go higher, like the Safedri, which is around 200, 250 bucks, and there's a lot more. You know, there's tons of there's the SDR Play, which is very, very popular. There's actually a very good review of the SDR Play on in the Spectrum Monitor this month. So, you know, it's kind of cool, and I always was attracted because I was attracted to the computer and radio together. You know, the first time I ever was really loved the idea of computer and radio was way back when I had my Commodore 64, and I had the SWL cartridge, which would go in the back and would let me to code radio teletype and Amtor or Navtex. And that was my first entry of how a computer can be used with a radio. And I love that. I really, and you know, I don't know what I did with that SWR cartridge, because man, I still have my Commodore here. Would have loved just to try it out and use it. But you know, so it started with that. Then I saw the different software-defined radios that were big cards that would put in your desktop computer. Then there were USB ones when, you know, when the connectivity of the computer became fast enough. Because what actually happened for a long time, the only way that you would have an SDR would be, you know, a plug-in card, stuff like that, because it was the only way that it would be fast enough for the transfer of data. Because let's face it, there's a lot of data here. Just to give you guys an idea, if I do a 3-hour show, this, just using this for 3 hours, will have run maybe 30, 40 gigabytes of data through my home network and the Wi-Fi, which is a lot of data. Now, of course, I do have a lot of spectrum. I can lower that by lowering the spectrum, but it's just amazing. And so then when the computer became fast enough with its ports, especially the USB ports, that's when we started seeing the ones that were USB driven, because now you had a way to transfer enough data to the computer. Of course, the Fedry, for example, also has network capability, which is great because, you know, through the Ethernet jack, you can really pump up a lot of data, even more than what you'll get through the USB ports. Chris Freitas, nice to have you here. Greetings from Memphis. We got a bit of snow, and unlike everyone else, I didn't get a day off at the TV station. The show must go on. Yeah, the show must go on, absolutely. You're totally right on that. Luis Arevalo says, just Google for any frequencies, it's for me. Yeah, you know, one of the things that is very cool today that wasn't available back when I started on shortwave is the fact that today you've got lists of frequencies everywhere. You can just Google and ask for frequencies that you want to listen to, and you know, it is of great help. You know, I often see people go to the forums and ask, oh, what's that, or what's this frequency, or what, I was listening to that Spanish thing there, and you know, I will say one thing about that. I kind of feel like the different forums, for example, the different Facebook shortwave groups, they are cool to have. It's nice to have a gathering of everybody there, but I feel like if you ask a question about what's on that frequency, it's more of, I would like to see more of things that aren't showing up anywhere. So, oh, I heard, like, for example, I saw one, I think it was yesterday. Somebody heard something in, I think it was Indy, on a frequency where no list was actually showing any transmission. Now that's good, because there's the detective search that we're starting. What's happening? What is on that frequency? Because no lists are showing it. And now with, you know, the help of everybody, you can kind of do detective work a little bit, and, you know, you'll have somebody that will, you know, understand Hindi or whatever, and be able to say, oh, well, that's this station. I was able to get an ID, you know. Where I like it less is when people just go and, or I'd call them a little bit, I'd say they're kind of, you know, they don't work hard enough to by themselves try to find stuff. So they'll just go there and say, oh, what's that thing in Spanish on 9955? Well, that's WRMI, you know, that sometimes is in Spanish on that frequency. And that, I feel, shouldn't be a question there, because you should use the power of the internet for what you need to find. And there's so many good websites that have ways to search for any station. And even when it's a utility station, because let's face it, international broadcasts, kind of easy to find the info. But it's a little harder to find the information about utility stuff. That's more of a detective work. So you'll hear something in, you know, upper sideband on some weird frequency, and then you're gonna start searching, okay, what's that, and start searching through Google and everything. So that is a little more interesting, because yeah, it might be difficult sometimes to just know what you are listening to, but I feel there's too many questions that you can answer yourself easily without having to ask all the time, you know. And one of the worst things that I always hate everywhere is when I see somebody that will you know, post something but with zero details. There's this, you know, for some reason especially on Facebook or even in emails. You know, oh well, you know, there's a date in the timestamp. So when I post something on the Facebook or I post something on the email, well, it says the time and the date. So you should know, which is not the case. First of all, it's not obvious that it's right now that you're asking it. And it is useful that you always say, I heard this transmission at this time in universal time on this frequency. If possible, the language, if you know it, because sometimes you don't, to kind of help out. Because too many people just go into chats and just like, oh, I'm hearing something now on 9395. What's the language? And where are you from? Because 9395 here and 9395 in China or in India or in the UK might actually give a different station. And it's, you know, it's not like there's one frequency for one station and that's it. One frequency will have dozens of stations sharing it, and sometimes one or, you know, two or three stations actually at the same time, but because they're at different target areas, they don't interfere with each other. So there's a lot of things like that, you know. So Wood Guy, you know, 8 says 80 degrees on Maui. Okay, pretty cool. 38 Fahrenheit in Morgan City, Louisiana. That's kind of cool for down there, Louisiana. MDK2 says the best frequencies out west are 5850. 5850 I know is broadcast towards the west, so 7730, 9980, but 7780 and 11580 can come in well depending on conditions. 9395 isn't bad. Hey, KC Red Dragon. Nice to have you on board. You bricked your OBD scanner. How did you do that? You tried to reprogram its firmware or something and it kind of crashed? There's no safe way to kind of go back somehow. Yeah, 9980 is WWCR. That's what I thought. Yeah, WRMI is on 9955 in the upper part. Richard says All India Radio strong on 7550 in the UK. Let's check it out here. Oh, it's not too bad. So All India Radio on 7550 kilohertz coming in not too badly. S9, S9 plus 10 into Montreal. Very strong in the UK. Hello there, Mark Schmidt. Nice to have you on board, my friend. What are my thoughts on DRM broadcast? Do you believe they'll ever make it to become the standard? And by the way, I'm coming to the SINPO code in a few minutes. So my thoughts on DRM, well, you know, they haven't changed. My thoughts on DRM is I believe it's a waste of money, and you know, because I get sometimes somebody that's going to just, you know, send me a little email and say, oh well, you know, you don't like DRM and you're just you know, want to listen to good old, you know, broadcasts from, you know, the old days. Okay, here's the thing. I have nothing against DRM and actually find that DRM could be an interesting thing. What I find about DRM is that the DRM consortium that's pushing that, these guys are really not, I'm sorry, they're not telling the truth to the broadcasters of the reality of DRM, I'm sure. There's some lobbyist somewhere that, you know, I mean, a lot of international broadcasters spend a lot of money converting their, you know, transmitters for the DRM capability. And you know what? You should have spent that money in, you know, keeping shortwave alive instead. The problem with DRM is the fact that it's dreadfully difficult to decode even when you have the right equipment, because you need a really strong signal. The fading is always, creating cutouts. And unless, they use a really low bit rate, like Voice of Nigeria, for example, there's tons of transmissions are almost impossible. That, plus the lack of really receivers, and more importantly, because here's the thing, you gotta never forget that the average shortwave listener will not spend a lot of money on a radio. There isn't a DRM radio that's affordable for most shortwave listeners. Plus the fact that it doesn't work well, it is not a broadcasting of the future, not for shortwave. Not for shortwave. I'm sorry, but for shortwave. And, the there's a lack of real thinking about DRM also. DRM should have been something that has its own frequency ranges, first of all. Now you got a DRM signal that's super wide, that for me is just trash noise, making it difficult for the stations that are near it to actually receive them. I remember once getting a DRM signal, and that DRM signal was actually preventing me from listening to another signal close to it, because it's just too damn wide. So I call it just white noise trashing the bands. They should have had their own little place, their own little frequency range, where DRM might be okay, and that's where probably DRM will be something that I think could be useful in local broadcasting. If you would transform the, transform the medium wave band into a DRM band, for example, bringing AM radio or the medium wave band into a higher quality audio and everything, that could be a possibility. But I personally think DRM is dead, and that for shortwave it's never going to pick up really. And any station that broadcasts in DRM, I think, is just wasting money. Honestly, they're wasting money. I'd be curious to see when, say, Radio Romania broadcasts its DRM, if there's actually one listener. I'd be very, very curious to see. And when I say a listener, I also want to say not the tech enthusiast that has the fancy computers and software to decode it because he kind of finds it cool and fun. Somebody listening with a little portable radio, I don't think there's anyone. Casey Red Dragon says channel marker in 12580. Yeah, I believe it's WLO on 12580. 12580. Let's check it out here. Oh, there's actually some ARQ. Actually on this is some kind of ARQ mode, some digital mode, 12580 right now. A little burst of data. Vianney Arsenault, bonjour, bienvenue. Nice to have you here. Nice to have you here. So I'm coming down slowly. It was all overcomer at that time. So yeah. What is a channel marker? Well, there's a lot of maritime stations that have what's called a channel marker. So a channel marker will, let me just try to get one that I can show you guys. Something like, I don't know if here maybe. So here's one. Maybe if we can hear one better. It's not very strong, but so a channel marker, there's not really a strong one right now. Let me just go here. This is one. So this one is TAH 8430 upper sideband. So if you guys tune to 8430 upper sideband. So what you'll hear is two types of transmission. So what you'll hear here, this is what it is a maritime station. It's a channel marker. So you hear the ID in Morse code. So in this case, 8430 upper sideband is TAH. This is from Turkey. It's the Istanbul, Turkey maritime station. Then you have bursts of data, 3 bursts of data. What that is simply I am on that frequency and I am waiting for possible traffic. So what happens is that channel marker could, if you listen to it long enough, at some point interrupt itself and suddenly there's some kind of transmission going through. Data transmission, it could be voice transmission. And basically it's just to kind of say this is my frequency. And if you want to contact me by radio, you can do it through this frequency. So it's kind of an automatic thing that can change into some conversation. So the channel marker is simply to mark the frequency and say, hey, this is TAH frequency in Turkey. If anybody wants to communicate, you can do so through this frequency. Kind of keep the frequency active for their own transmissions. It's almost only there are different types of channel markers, like the Russian military has a set of channel markers across the band. The other day I was going through the Swedish SDR, and I started looking at a list of Russian channel markers, which are often one letter sent in Morse code all the time. And basically what's happening is that they are using that for their military. So in their cases, they're kind of saying this is my frequency. And I guess something could probably happen in some communication. Sometimes it could be Morse code, but they have a different type. But a lot of the channel markers are maritime channel markers. There's a lot of them that are operated across different countries. One that they hear very well here in general is WLO in Mobile, Alabama, that is heard on several frequencies throughout 24 hours a day. John Ritson, nice to have you here. Good evening. He's experimenting with the new off-the-shelf AirSpy HF Plus, and it is proving itself a great buy. Cool, cool. No, 5172 KC Red Dragon is a link. What do we call it? Something like link 72 or something like that. It's I don't hear it very well right now, but I often hear it. It's a little burst of data. This is NATO, the North American Treaty Organization. North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And they have on several frequencies these little digital links, and that's what you're hearing on 5172 KC Red Dragon. Xander Marks, nice to have you here from the Netherlands. Pretty cool to have you on board. And the K2 says seasonal changes are becoming apparent. Zanzibar was great on Tuesday, but has been barely copyable since. So 38, 35, 80. Yeah, that's the amateur 80 meter amateur band. So you're probably getting some kind of digital transmission from an amateur radio station. NDKT says, NDK2, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the internet. When I got my first receiver 2 years ago, I was Googling frequencies left and right, trying to figure out what I was hearing. Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, you heard Shannon Volmet, Richard? It had been off for such a long time. I'm going to try it out on the famous 5505, if you can hear it. Not hearing it, but I'm hearing it. It's pretty strong. The 5450 upper sideband is the Royal Air Force military vomit in the UK. This one's pretty good. Yeah, that too also. The timestamp on Facebook is sometimes very, very vague. Absolutely. Absolutely. Don Brown, nice to have you here from La Belle, Florida. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. In case Red Dragon used the wrong firmware, now I can't get it to talk to the PC. Oh, that is bad. Contact the company. Maybe they can reset it for you. Fabrice Simonet says, new XH Data D808 looks interesting. SSB airband and almost ultra portable size. I was tempted by a few portable receivers that I might try to purchase in the coming weeks for the purpose of doing reviews on the channel at interesting, reasonable prices, and including that one, the XH Data D808. Kind of feel like I might want one. And it's a little expensive. I find it a little expensive, but I'd like to have one of the C-Crane portable receivers with SSB. Never bought a C-Crane radio. I'd like to have something like that for sure. Brett Wayne says it was 54 Fahrenheit this morning at 4:15 a.m. 36 now. Yesterday I was with friends downtown Montreal, and it was like +10, which is what, something like 50 degrees Fahrenheit. It's amazing when you think that a week ago it was like you know, -20, -25. Radioactive, nice to have you here. It says, in the low solar condition, DRM will struggle to work well due to the deep fades. It always, anyways, pretty much always does, you know, as struggle to work well. So really amazing. So what do you have coming down? Richard says Shannon vomit on 3413. So okay, that's interesting. Maybe 5505 is down. Let me just try it. It's a little, well, it's not necessarily too early, but 3413. Maybe something in the noise, but I'm not really sure. And of course, you know, it all has to do with oh, look at that noise that just appeared here. Look at that weird noise. That's as if somebody just turned on something. Crazy, look at that. And all these weird shapes. And really strong signals there. Wow. Somebody just turned on some kind of device that is completely nuts in noise. China Radio International, 5960 kilohertz with a really good signal.
They usually have about a dozen inhabitants, and I think they, you know, they're just like a billboard, a little billboard to attract other people to this language.
Yes.
So, because if they really want to talk about copyright infringement, if the government really want to enforce, you know, the law, copyright protection law, they need more people. I need more.
So China Radio, this is from Albania, by the way. 5960 kilohertz is China Radio from Albania. Lots of interesting signals on the 49 meter band. We're going to tune around a little bit, for sure. What is there? Nikki2 says, I'm not sure all the SDR software can process DRM. I don't think SDR console does through, although HD SDR and SDR Uno do, but you still need another app called Dream to decode it. Yep, absolutely. I have tried to decode DRM with HD SDR and Dream, but my noise floor is so high for the signal that it really doesn't, you know. What else do we have? No problem, Rod Zav. I'm here for that. So anybody has questions, please do. Casper Peterson, nice to have you on board. Happy New Year. Pretty cool to have you on board from Sweden. PLF radios, channel markers and Morse code. Well, most channel markers will ID themselves in Morse code. So for the most part, it's Morse code. Hey, we're 100 people watching, which is nice for a Friday. Doesn't happen very often on a Friday that we reach 100 viewers. So anyways, most channel markers, yeah, are in, will ID in Morse code for the most part. MDK2, I got a W6 LVP loop that I'm trying out. Yeah, I saw the picture. You posted a picture in the Facebook group, I believe. And you're waiting to put it in a permanent position, I think. So I'm surprised that the gain is relatively low, but I guess that's by design to help null noise. I guess I'll see how it is at night. I really would like to have lots of information, as much as you can give me about that loop, because it's one of the loops that I'm actually thinking of purchasing for sure. Mike DX, hello there, nice to have you here. Yeah, TAH is Tumble Radio. So basically, what is maritime? Do you mean maritime? I'm talking about maritime station as in boats and you know, maritime stations that will broadcast all sorts of information, like, you know, the weather stations in the United States for marine broadcasts of all sorts. So maritime stations are really, you know, for boats and oceans and stuff like that. Mike DX has been hearing TAH on 8812 upper sideband with robot weather daily at 10 to 1020 UT. Yeah, it's a lot of these stations do also have all sorts of things like that. So it's pretty cool. Hey, Free Saxon, nice to have you here. MDK2 copied Shannon Volmet on 6604, but it's not. Shannon Volmet is not on 6604. I hear it, you know, on 6604 you'll have Gander and New York, but there's no, I don't believe there's Shannon Volmet on 6604. The only other on 6604 is Gander. I'm just going to check out because I don't want to say something that I'm not right. So if I look at the frequency list here, and we look at 6604, yeah, we've got Gander, and that's it. They even, you know what? It's interesting. They've removed New York from the frequency list, which kind of tells me that New York is gone and not coming back for the weather broadcasts. So now it's Gander at the 20th and 50th minute of each hour. So we're at 58. Let's try it out just for the fun of it. 6604. If I hear Gander right now. Yep. So Gander is coming in on 6604 right now. Because Shannon is not on 6604. Maybe you're mixing it with Gander, I would guess.
No report received. Broadcast of 2000 Mika operation. 180 degrees, 10 knots. Few clouds, past 200.
So I'm hearing it on 6604 and 10051 upper sideband. So Radio Horizon, nice to have you here. Radio Horizon from Pakistan, nice to have you here. I've never tried SDR Uno. Maybe I should try a few different software. I have the only two software that I've used, because there were two that actually worked well, is HD SDR and SDR Sharp. That is also an interesting piece of software, but I like HD SDR better. But I should check it out, SDR Uno. I tried, what's the other one? SDR Console. that I've never been able to have it work. It's supposed to be a, you know, it is supposed to work and that's it, but I've never been able to have it work for some reason. So yeah, 6604 is Gander in Newfoundland, Canada. What else do we have? What else do we have? Well, on the 20 and 50 schedule, it's Gander in Newfoundland, Canada. And on the list, I don't see Shannon there. Southern Illinois, San, nice to have you on board. So, PLF Radio says, 2 days ago received this XH Data D808, my first new shortwave radio in almost 3 years. How do you like it? How do you like it? Yeah, it's Gander. Ah, that's it. That's what I thought. You were mixing up the Gander and it happens to all the best ones. Don't worry about it. Kirk Weber, nice to have you here. 67 Fahrenheit. Wow. And checking out new show. Cool. Nice to have you on board. Hello, I'm new to shortwave. Does anyone know if using an SDR needs a license in Europe? Not from what I know of. It's a radio. You know, I don't... the only thing that is... Oh, Denmark. Sorry, Casper Peterson. I mixed up somebody else with Sweden. In Denmark, I'm sorry. You know, the only thing about an SDR, so say you receive a... because there are regulations for radios. I mean, you know, in the United States, any radio should not have technically the cell band and stuff like that. Any radios in certain countries, radios are restricted in the frequency range they can actually listen to. So the one of the negative sides of this is that technically, you know, if you get an RTL SDR, for example, maybe you are technically illegal in using it because it covers frequencies that shouldn't. You know, if you've got an RTL SDR dongle in the United States and you're using it, that thing doesn't have any frequencies cut off. Technically, if you tune a cordless phone frequency or a cell phone frequency, the old analog cell band, you are technically illegal. And technically the device is also not supposed to be sold in the United States, but things being like they are, and you know, these devices coming from China and never really have been approved or not for whatever, I mean, you can get these things, but I do not believe that a license is needed for an SDR. Any news about sponsors? I will, sometime by the end of the month, I might have an announcement to Sergeant Illinois San. And just don't talk about it because I don't want to, you know, just don't want to risk anything. But there's a possibility, there's something that I'm working on right now. So yeah, Casper Peterson, nice to have you here, and sorry for the mix-up in the country. Richard Cook, 6170, Voice of Korea in Korean, 6170. What do I have here? Got nothing. Absolutely nothing. We got something here, 6195. 6195 is Voice of America, I believe. And it is from 6195. Yeah, Voice of America at this time. We are at, what, 2100 now? From Botswana. No, from 21 is from Sao Tome in Africa. So I'm hearing Voice of America from Sao Tome in Africa.
And from Washington, I'm Ann Ball.
That's the latest world news on VOA. It's music time in Africa.
It's music time in Africa. I like it when I hear the voice of America from one of those African relays. It's kind of cool. You know, it's kind of a DX thing. It's Voice of America, but it's from Africa. You know, it's kind of cool. So what else do we have? What else do we have? Just checking out here. Sorry, I'm a little backed up. We all start somewhere. We all have to start somewhere. I mean, we all were at some point, you know, newbies that didn't know anything. And I'm sure a lot of people would have loved, I sure would have loved to have something like this going on when I started in 1983, 82, to help me out understand everything about the world of radio, you know. MDK2 says, if you check out the video of my channel, this is only a test. That's me switching between. Oh, okay, I'm gonna check it out. So you're switching your homebrewed loop and the W6 LVP on on Zanzibar and 11735. I'm gonna check it out, MDK2. Absolutely, I'm very curious. Two Hands and a Radio. Nice to have you here. Yeah, I hear reports from time to time, people hearing the gander weather in Europe. If you know all the frequencies, 3485, 6604, 10051, and 13270 are all the frequencies that gander uses. And gander is at the 20th and the 50th minute of each hour. So, for example, now gander will be back at 2120 UT and at 2150 UT. So, Nameless, hello there, so uses QGRX. Okay. Isn't that on Mac or Linux or something? I'm trying to remember. I remember seeing that name, but so Richard saying that he's getting it on 6604 mostly. In terms of portables, which do you prefer between the PL880 and the Sangean ATS909X? Thank you. Are you the one that asked that question? By the way, in one of my videos, I didn't have time to answer it back. I like the PL880 better, I would say, for one major reason. After, you know, I got the old ATS909, first generation, in the Radio Shack version, which is the Radio Shack DX398. Now, the ATS909X is an updated version, much more modern in its look. And when it came out, I was curious, you know, because a lot of people were saying, oh, they updated the hardware, it's better than the original. But as I am reading more and more, what I kind of understand is I seem to see that the ATS909, they've upgraded the box around it, but internally it seems to be almost the same thing as the original 909. And it has one flaw that I've seen a lot of people complain about, because I will complain about that flaw on my own radio, the 909. It's a little deaf. It is not as sensitive as the PL880, for example. That said, if you put a wire, an outdoor wire or an outdoor antenna to it, it is actually quite good. And one of the things that is nice about it is all the features that it has, including the page system, where you can actually put names, and the 40, it's like when you put it in fine tune, it's like 40 Hertz tuning when you're using it, separate upper lower sideband, all of that. So even if it is a little deaf, honestly, I kind of love my DX398. And actually, I was thinking that when winter's over, I think the first radio I'm going to bring out for my Perry Island D expedition when it comes back will be the DX398. I haven't used it a long time. Oh, don't worry about it, MDK2. You know, it happens to the best of us. I sometimes mix up stations, and it happened several times, by the way, that the chat room actually corrected me on something that I said. So, you know, kind of nice. Judd Simon says, anyone know any Russian stations audible to mid-Atlantic US? I'm trying to learn the language. If you're trying to learn Russian, what you could try out is stations that broadcast in Russian. There's, I believe, Radio Romania has a Russian service. China Radio has a Russian service. So you can try to get maybe some of those transmissions that will make it to mid-Atlantic, because since the voice of Russia is gone from shortwave, there really isn't anything much about Russia on the shortwave bands except you know, number stations and channel markers and stuff like that, or the buzzer, where you won't learn much. No, I don't think that listening to the buzzer for 6 hours will help you learn much of a language. Billy Laptop, nice to have you here from Newfield, New York. And has MDK2 is just saying get China Radio in Russian. So that would be my first idea. PLF Radio says, for me the XH data, the 808 is good, but 2 days of using is a bit too short. Yeah, absolutely, but you usually already have kind of an idea by using it. You know, I certainly, when I get a new radio, I certainly have an idea of how it performs, usually pretty much in the first couple of hours. You know, because you listen to it, you're especially when you use it on some of the known signals that you're going to get, it's surprising. It's very surprising. And I can tell you that, of course, a more complete usage helps you have a better idea of different things. And, you know, often you find these little glitches or little weird things about a radio. But, you know, I think in the first couple of hours of any radio you use, you already start having a little idea of how it performs compared to, you know, other radios you might have at home. Mike Bott, nice to have you here, says using both SDR consoles, SDR Uno and HD SDR with the new AirSpy HF Plus. I'm using SDR console V3 and SDR Sharp. So it's kind of cool. Kind of cool. Inless says you can listen to everything but transceiving not. Yeah, well, you need to have a amateur radio license. Nathan Petrovsky, nice to have you here, says got a Sangean ATS 909X for Christmas. I've been enjoying it. You know, if you put an antenna, like I said, if you put a piece of wire or an outdoor antenna on that thing, it is actually very nice. But just with the telescopic whip, it's just a little deaf compared to a lot of other receivers. David Arden, nice to have you here, KJ4CMY. Pretty cool, pretty cool. What else do we have? What else do we have? Going down, going down. Hello there. Voice of Greece making it strong in Central Ohio. Let's, Free Saxon says, here in Britain, 7555 Radio India. Yeah, it's more like, yeah, it's Linux name last. That's what I thought. It was for Linux or something. I think it's 7550 if you tune it right. Free Saxon, and I heard it pretty well. Yep. 7550 with a pretty good signal. Although there is something on 555. And a very interesting Indian music as usual. Voice of Greece, let's check it out in 9420. I haven't heard it in a while. Yeah, it's there. Not very strong, but Voice of Greece is there on 9420. 9420. Voice of Greece. I was looking at the really powerful signal here, which I believe to be probably Spain on 9690.
Luego tendremos también, contaremos con la presencia de don Francisco Beltrán, director de pesca de la Generalitat Valenciana, y dos, Amparo Alexandre, que es la secretaria del Palmar, de la comunidad de pescadores del Palmar.
What happens, Free Saxon, also is that the radio is not necessarily off sometimes, but it's because the filter is so wide that you actually have the possibility to hear 5 kilohertz, below or above. CHU on 7850. Let's check it out here. 7850. Nothing here. Look at that ionospheric sounder that's going on the bands. I'm getting it weekly on 3330 with a strong buzzing that I know where it comes from. I think it's my Christmas decorations. So 26 BT 7000, bonjour, nice to have you on board. And best to switch your radios on once in a while to make sure those caps stay healthy. So N0W8, nice to have you on board. Gary Seward, nice to have you here in the UK. Sonny Leonstein says, they tell me that electrolytic capacitors go bad and need replaced. CB and ham radios get recapped as part of a restoration. Do old shortwave need recap? Yes, absolutely. I would say that, any old radio, and I mean electronics is pretty tough, and even the capacitors are tough. Well, electrolytic capacitors will eventually go bad, or sometimes they aren't necessarily bad, but their values change so much that the radio's performance isn't what it used to be. So a lot of older radios, like if I look at my good old Kenwood R5000 from the 80s, one of the things that they sell on eBay is a package of electrolytic caps to actually change them. On portable radios, the problem is portable receivers are so much more difficult to repair. I would say that for a lot of the radios, they kind of keep going on and on and on, and electrolytics also from later dates are better than the ones, like for those that have tube radios, you know that the tube radios at the time, often the electrolytics were cardboard capacitors, and they would just dry out. All the electrolytics inside, all the kind of the liquid, if you want, that's in it, would dry out, and they would just not work well or even short out. When electrolytics became more mainstream in the 70s, with the way they were made of their little metal cans, if you want, with of course that plastic coating on it, they were actually much better. So they technically are good for a very, very long time, but they could worn out, and I see it, for example, in computers. And so a lot of where probably the electrolytics are the most stressed in electronics is in the power supply area, especially when the power supply is something you plug in the the AC outlet. These are actually much more solicited, so they actually wear out faster over time. In a lot of receivers, I can't say that I've seen just look at the Grundig that I've got, the Grundig that Fastlow gave me, that I've been making videos of. I mean, it has the original capacitors from 1969, and that thing works perfectly. So I would guess that, yeah, maybe for performance, it could be a thing to do, but they're damn good. I mean, they're tough. They're tough. They're really tough. So, you know, yes, they could in certain more stressful environment, I would say. You know, like on the R5000, what's stressful in there? It's really hot. The R5000, the Kenwood R5000, runs hot, very hot all the time. That is a much more stressful environment for all the electronics in general. Mike Bott says, from a couple of years back, while the storms rolled through, I conducted a small experiment on my Sangean ATS909X and my Texan PL660 with antennas only and fresh batteries in both. Tuning from 5,000 to 16,000 kHz, I found no signal could be found on one that the other could not tune, while on the same signal with deep fades, one might keep signal when the other would lose it. One of the things of PL660 that we have to be careful with that type of test is that if the 660, I've never used the 660, but if the 660 kind of has a little bit the same flaw of the 680 in deep fades, it easily loses the signal. So you know, I'd have to I would have to I don't believe I've ever done that test. You know, that's actually a nice test to do of some videos on, by the way. I do not believe I've done tests of my old, because in my case it's the original with the DX398 and a modern Texan receiver or a modern radio. That could be an interesting, a very interesting thing to do. And once again, you know, I've never used the ATS909X, so it'd be kind of interesting to compare it with the original 909 and see if they've made it better. Two Hands on the Radio says Skywave schedules app, and you can choose what language you want. Russian, yep. There's a lot of apps that are cool for that. Hello there, Radio Man 881. Thank you very much for the nice comments. Says he enjoys the show, so it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to have great fans that are actually following my stuff. Thank you for your answers. I'm totally a newbie. Don't misjudge. Don't worry. You're really at the right place here, honestly. There's really no judging of anything. Like I always say, remember, we've always been, all of us, we've been newbies where we didn't know anything. And it's just fantastic to have possibility to have something like this where we can learn, you know. Sheldon Harvey, nice to have you on board, says, so he's giving a little link to Russian broadcasts, pretty cool. Dan 805 from North Carolina, nice to have you here. And Sheldon is not very far from me, so we are going to brace ourselves so that big snowstorm tomorrow and all the mixed up weather that's coming our way. Sheldon says some will only be available online, but will still help with learning the language. Cool. 741, nice to have you on board from Connecticut. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. PLF Radio, okay. You'll give your thoughts next time. Cool. Uncle Wink, Frank, W4FJM, Southeast Florida. Nice to have you on board. Pretty cool. What else do we have? Free Saxon says 7285 loud and clear. Let's check it out. 7285. And we have.
There you go.
Just separation, isolation, men and women. But the thing is, I can't believe that these.
So China Radio International, coming from, I believe, Albania transmitter site. Rock Ristorante, nice to have you on board from Sweden. Pretty cool. Nice to have you here. SM0SBT. And yes, for everybody that's here, there is a show tomorrow where we were going to talk about solar activity. So we'll be here. Fabrice Simones has already recapped my old video game consoles. You know what? I've got my my Atari 1040 ST, which is a good old Atari computer. It stopped working about what, 3-4 months ago, and I opened it up and recapped the power supply area, and it came back to life. It was just that the capacitors in the power supply area were kind of going bad, basically. Glenn Goodell, what is WebSDR? Well, there's a lot of online receivers that you can actually go through on the web, and these are WebSDRs. They are software-defined radios, just like the one I'm using here, which is local. It's my radio here in my shack or my office with my antenna outdoor. But there's tons of software-defined radios that you can tune in from around the world on the web, and this is pretty cool because you can listen to, and I particularly like the fact that you can listen to signals you might never hear in your area, simply because of the frequency or time used or the power used, which means that by using an online radio, and I do that all the time, and you know, I don't think it's cheating. It's actually a very nice resource, because it's still, yeah, you're listening through the internet, but it's still a radio you're tuning somewhere in the world, and it's just cool to listen to something that you might not be hearing in your area, thanks to the magic of internet plus radio. Bristol Channel Radio, nice to have you on board. Strong signal in UK from Radio Saudi in Saudi Arabia, 9870. Let's check it out. Usually packs in a good signal here too. So Saudi Arabia, 9870. It's a little weak. It's a little weak, almost nothing here. There's a very, very weak signal, but it's almost nothing. It's stronger than that usually. Shows that higher signals. So as Steve is saying perfectly, whenever SDRs are SDR radios, you can control via the net. What else do we have? Yeah, the Grundig used a good quality crown. Absolutely, that Grundig thing is amazing. Mike DX was a newbie in 1974. I was a newbie in 1982. So, you know, long time ago. Long time ago. You know, when we are newbies and our newbie moment is before it starts with 19 something, because they're not in the year 2000. It starts to feel old for some reason. I was amazed this week they were talking about the famous ice storm that we had here in southern Quebec in 1998. And, you know, for some reason it doesn't feel that far away. But when they talked about it this week, it was like, man, it's 20 years. 20 years since we had the ice storm. It's crazy. It's like, wow, it feels like so, you know, it doesn't feel like that far back when we were in panic because of all the ice everywhere. And it's like, wow, 20 years, man, 20 years. Crazy. 11635 for HM01. Let's check that out. I'm hearing it in the noise, but it is there, definitely there, but it's really, really washed up in the noise here. 11635 HM01 if you want to listen to a number station. Mike Botts is doing this since 1967. I wasn't even born. I was born in 1969. Well, that's the idea of Bristol Channel. Learning something every time on this place is exactly what we want. Baron Elites, nice to have you here from Turkey. Baron Elites. Sorry if I do misspell or mispronounce names. Nebelheim 999 from Germany, nice to have you on board. There's one, the U20 SDR, which is pretty cool. Dexfar has got an Atari 2600. I got one here in a bag. I need a power supply. I need a power supply for it, and I need at least one game that I need to purchase to have it working. I'd like to see if it works. I have no idea if it works. Fastlow, give it to me. and he was unable to test it out, so we have no idea if that thing works or not. Hey there, B. Good evening, Tom. Nice to have you here. SDR.hu is another great place. Absolutely. Big Daddy 050970. Nice to have you here. From California, looking to purchase a shortwave radio to use with external antenna. Can you suggest something in the $100 to $125 range? Right now I have a satellite and don't like it. No good reception. What model do you have exactly? Can you give me a little more detail on what you have in that satellite thing? Because one of the biggest problems is not necessarily the radio sometimes, but the environment where you are. And I have to say that in California, you live in the west coast of North America, where signals tend to be, in general, weaker than here on the East Coast, making it more difficult. Plus, the noise around you, how much noise you've got in your environment around you. It's very important to check it out. So if you can give a little more details, just out of question of what radio you've got. Sometimes, you know, I've had some people sometimes tell me, oh, I've got a crappy radio and I want to have something better. Then the person will tell me what radio they've got, and I was like, well, that's not a crappy radio. It's just that probably there's a way to not, you know, do it. You're not doing it right. Maybe it's too much noise and all of that. Bullfrog89, nice to have you here. KD2CXU, checking in. And hope everybody's doing well. OH8STN, nice to have you on board. Happy New Year. And no problem, no problem. So thank you very much for sharing it, my friend. It's very, very nice of you. PA1WX, nice to have you on board. Brian from the Netherlands. Pretty cool. Before I continue, we're going to talk about something that has been asked about the SINPO code. What and how do you use the SINPO code? What is it? So, okay. The SINPO code is a way to quantify with numbers what the quality or the general quality of reception of a signal that you receive. So each letter has one acronym. So it's S is for signal, I is for interference, N is for noise, P is for propagation, and the O is the overall of all of that. It goes from 1 to 5, basically 1 being the worst, 5 being the best of conditions. So basically, it's been in use for a long time. And I'll give the positive and the negative that I think about the SINPO code. Over the years, what you realize is that when you send a reception report, for example, to a station, you kind of realize that the station isn't very technical, and it shows when you are actually looking at the mailback shows, where, yeah, you know, old seasoned broadcasters with people working there for, you know, decades will usually know what it means and how it is. But as we get more modern times, the SINPO code is more of a weird thing that people will have on their paper and say, I don't really know what that means, you know. So basically, it's a way to put all the information needed for a station to understand why the signal is good or not. Because, for example, I got a high noise here, so the signal could actually be really good. I could have a really, really nice signal, which would give me a 4 or a 5. But I might have in the interference or in the noise level really bad noise that makes it difficult to listen to. So I'll give that more of a 2 or a 3, depending on, you know, the interaction with the noise and the signal itself. Propagation is also something to take into account. But there are a lot of fades deep fades, you know, all sorts of weird propagation things happening. That will also mean that a signal that could be very strong can end up with an overall quality of, you know, 3 or 2, which is just average or even kind of bad. So the SINPO code, as the positive side of the SINPO code, is that it details why a signal's quality is how it is, because it tells you the strength of the signal, but also what could be interfering with it or not, and you have an average at the end. For that is good, because you really detail it. But you know what? I am more in favor of, why don't you just, in your own words, detail the quality of reception. I tend to, I will, you know, in a reception report include the SINPO code very often. And basically, in that SINPO code, I will detail in my own words that they can understand the problem with the signal or what interference that I've been having. So S is for signal. So of course that's the strength of the signal. So you take a signal from, say I tune into China radio here, 7285.
I missed hearing your name. Hearing was nothing personal. It's just you've been kind of...
So it could be a little stronger, but it's a pretty good signal. So for me, that would be a 4. Personally, I would put it as a 4. You know, when it passes the S9 level, it's S9, S9 plus 10, you can say that's kind of a 4. Okay, some people might not agree. It is, you know, there's part of it that's kind of also our own interpretation of it. So S for the signal level, so that's a 4, meaning that it's not bad of a signal level. Then you'll have interference. Interference is anything that is you know, interference from another station that's close to it and that's doing you know, some kind of interference to the signal itself. It could be local noise. Here in my case, there's a lot of local noise. So in this report, although the signal is 4, the noise in it is higher than it should be for such a signal because my interference level, my local interference from here, is pretty high. So I might say the signal is 4, but I'll say that the noise is 3 or even 2. So meaning I got a lot of interference here. N is for noise, and that is atmospheric noise. So it could be noise from thunderstorm crashes. It could be noise. It's a little difficult to quantify, but sometimes the bands are a little more noisy in general, and it has nothing to do with your local area noise. It could be due to solar activity conditions, all sorts of things like that. It's difficult to quantify really what that noise is, but you can put it, you know, if you're listening regularly, you kind of have a general noise that you know that is generally always around here. And sometimes I'll have static crashes from thunderstorms, faraway thunderstorms, stuff like that. You might actually want to take that into account. And so here, for my sake, I would say the atmospheric noise, which is very difficult to quantify. You know, I would give that a 4. It's not very high. It's not the atmospheric noise that's the problem right now. So I would start with a 4. I would give it, for the noise, a 3, and I'm generous because it could be a 2. Then another 4 for noise, which means there's not a lot of atmospheric noise. So right now I'm averaging about 3. Then there's propagation. Is it really steady? Do you have a lot of big fades? Does it, you know, signals from Asia, for example, sometimes have this little wobble in it. How good is it? You know, the more stable and listenable it is with the less fades.
That these games that are showing speed, my friend, have much more macho type.
So here you see that there's not a lot of deep phase, and the signal maintains itself quite a lot. So this could be a 4 in propagation. Propagation-wise, it is good, even close to a 5. So I've got numbers that are giving me good, you know, there's some good numbers. The 4 in propagation is good, the noise 4 is good. Interference, the one's bad for me, is a 3 or a 2. Signal strength is good, that's a 4. And finally, the O is for the overall merit. So you just kind of give it the average of the numbers that you've got on average. So in this case, I could say 4, 2, 4, 4, which would give me, you know, 3. I would tend to say the overall here. So I would, you know, probably push the noise, the interference to 3, because I still hear it really well. So, you know, this is for me an overall signal that's very close to a 4 in this case, even though it's a little noisy and everything. For me, a signal that would have an overall of 3 would be worse than this, personally.
In which you can date Selena.
So it gives a lot of details of what, you know, the signal is. But you know what? You don't have to learn that, and you don't have to necessarily use that code. You can just use your own words and explain in your own words what the conditions are, the interference you had. Explain that you had maybe interference from a close station or whatever, you know. And you don't have to necessarily use the SINPO code, but the SINPO code has it's nice for the details that it can give the broadcaster. Problem is, the SINPO code is sometimes not used correctly. There's a lot of people that will, you know, 4 2 2 2 4. Well, how can you be at 4 in the overall when the rest is kind of crappy, you know? But it is, all in all, kind of your own interpretation, and we're not going to interpret. We're not all going to have the same interpretation of the signal, and I'm sure some of you would have a different idea of maybe what SINPO code you'd be on that signal. It's very, very difficult to really, you know, quantify correctly. So you know, well, the Eton satellite is actually, they're actually good radios in general. What model exactly? You have a model number, I'm pretty sure. Sheldon says, remember the transmission we're checking on Berg, Virginia SDR, which kept repeating this is a test? Well, I just checked and it's still there. Oh, really? That is so weird. Keeping just the transmitter on with this is a test. Very, very weird. I'll have to check that out later on. Wow. At least now we know it's local, and it's kind of weird that it just keeps repeating that all the time. Brett Wayne says, I've been a ham for years and a shortwave listener since 69 or 70, and I learn every day. Oh, absolutely. I think we all learn every day, honestly. Nobody can say that it is, you know, perfect. Bullfrog says, remembers the ice storm. Family went without power for 16 days. Just shy of 9-year-old. That was very impressive, I have to say. Very, very impressive. Totally impressive. Amazing. What else do we have? Wow, Steve is receiving HM0 on pretty strong in Australia. That's kind of interesting. Yep, time flies when you're having fun. Absolutely. Absolutely. Jonathan Adami, nice to have you on board from VK4ALE. Nice to have you on board from Australia. So it's really, really nice. Jolly Atari AV6er, I have the European version. Mine is, well, it's an Atari 1040 ST, so I don't know exactly. I know that the European and the North American versions of some of these computers were sometimes different. Romania in English, very strong, 6170. I don't know if it's still there. Let's check it out.
Sometimes
Yep.
in our regular series, the future starts today. At the microphone, the Araujo and Eugen Nasta. The decision by the American president to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel has had a massive effect on the Middle East and beyond. Following the announcement, the UN Security Council called an emergency session, and protests erupted in the Palestinian territories and several Muslim countries. In an attempt to gain support from the EU,
So Radio Romania 6170. On Cold Wing started in 65 with Ali Crafter's SX130. Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty much what I would also say. Like David Arden says, Big Daddy, take your radio to a park. Go to a local park where you're far away from houses and electricity poles. And you might be surprised that it actually picks up really, really well. And you remember that outdoor wire of yours, that outdoor antenna, can pick up also all of your neighbor's noise, which isn't super cool. Hey, David in Barcelona, nice to have you here. Happy 2018 to you too. Nice to have you on board. Butterbean, nice to have you here. Says have tons of noise, but when I puts a ground rod connected to shortwave radio, it goes away. Yeah, in the cases where a lot of the noise is inside, with a coax, when you ground the external shield, very often it's actually will go away. 73 is on Cold Wink. It's nice to have you on board. Paul A. Steckler, nice to have you here. Cats and Jammers. New name for the show, Cats and Jammers. Wow. KBS World hasn't been coming to Europe recently. Yeah, you know, it's like that. Thing is very. KBS is difficult. Here on 15575, it's impossible. No, same camera, but might be that sometimes the camera doesn't react well to kind of the environment around it, and it kind of has a lot of difficulty. One thing that I might want to check, I have the impression that, just check the source settings here. I have the impression that the autofocus is off, so I don't know. I'm leaving everything at automatic, but it does look, I did notice even a little earlier, and I think what it might be is more of the fact that the lighting system that I have right now is not positioned in the same way. So it's probably doing a little trick there, because I don't usually have the lights in this manner. What's happening is I didn't have enough plugs, electrical outlets to plug all the lighting, and I had to position them differently with a extension cord. So maybe that is what is making also the different washed out, because I didn't notice when I was looking at the screen right here, because I see it right there in my computer. I did kind of notice it was a little washed out also. So, and I did notice the same thing when I did my tech show on Tuesday, so I'll try to position the lights a little differently. For sure. Rock Ristorante says Atlantic 2000 will be on the air Sunday, the 14th of January, with special broadcast transmitted from Red Lion via WINB 2200 UT 9265 with a power of 50 kilowatts. Oh, that's going to be interesting to listen to. So Sunday the 14th of January. Thanks for the info, Rock Ristorante. Sunday 14th of January, this coming Sunday, 21 to 2200 UT via WINB on 9265. My next band will be named SINPO. Yeah, that's you know, you put it in a rock band. The SINPO code. Everybody's gonna wonder what that is, the SINPO code. KC Red Dragon is receiving weather facts on 4610. Yeah, I hear it from time to time, that one. I don't know if I hear it right now. Nope, nothing here. I'm just receiving the chirps, chirps, chirps of the Kodar on the frequency. Thomas Taylor, nice to have you here. Pretty cool. Take care, Butterbean. Nice to have you here. As we go down slowly. else do we have? What else do we have? Yeah, that's also very easy, as Mike Bott is saying. Easy to send recordings to stations today. Absolutely. Or, you know, put a link of your YouTube video you made of the reception of the stations and stuff like that. So look at that. I've never seen the Kodar so strong here. Look at that. You can see it move here. Wow. Really strong Kodar. What else do we have? What else do we have? MDK2 says, always post video recording to YouTube when I'm submitting a reception report with a link to the video included. And it is the best way, honestly, because there's nothing better than actually being able to hear or see how you were receiving that station at a certain time, honestly. So, you know. Doesn't matter where you ground the antenna. Should it be at the beginning of the wire or at the end of the antenna? The thing about grounding is it has to be as short as possible, and it doesn't really matter that technically it's you want to ground, especially if you have your coax, you want to ground the shielding around it. Depends on how you set up your antenna also. You really ground the shield, because that's gonna take some noise off. So 13TW093, nice to have you on board from Germany. DL0074SWL and 7074 USB is of course FT8. There's a lot of cool things. FT8 is an amazing mode, I have to say. So I will put Radio Romania on for 2 seconds. I'm gonna go fill up my vodka cranberry juice, and as we listen to Radio Romania, I'll also post your donations are really helpful. It's what helps me continue. January is the crappiest month of the year for monetization. This year is a crappy month. It's better than January last year, but it's still crappy. So if you guys want to help me out through PayPal or Patreon.com, great way to help me out. And I will be going to fill up my glass.
After 3 separate holidays in the calendar, the feast of St. Peter, Master of Wolves, the Athanasians, and Cyril. The celebrations were associated with a very cold time of the year, when lightning bolts were believed to be frozen. According to folk tradition, the first lightning bolts could be seen in mid-July.
It is said that at this time of the year, St. Peter, wearing white robes and riding the white horse, would tell wolves to attack and kill livestock, and even people, whenever they did not observe the celebrations. The fact that the celebration of the Chukoth overlapped with the feast days of St. Athanasius and St. Cyril warded off traditional communities against the plague.
St. Anthony was believed to be able to dispel curses and dark spells. It is this very saint who also effected the tilling of the land, as Eckhart thought he could control the weather during the summer, protecting people's crops against drought.
The other two saints, Athanasius and Cyril, were also thought to have special powers, being able to keep the plague in check so as to protect people against epidemics and death. In old days, women used to give poultry and homemade whole grain wheat cakes as alms for the souls of the dead, also in order to...
So Radio Romania, talking about the souls of the dead on 6170 kilohertz. Nice to have you here. And of course, we've been on incredible. I have the impression I started like 10 minutes ago, and it's already an hour 54 minutes into the show. Maintaining our above 100 viewing, which is pretty cool. And thanks everybody for being here. This is a show every Friday, 2000 hours Universal Time on this Shortwave channel. We talk about radio, shortwave radio in general, answer questions, have a great chat room, have tons of people that are really cool, really nice to be around. And that's really cool. Mike K says, I use a Sony SW100 for shortwave. The speaker is very small, and I was wondering, is there an extension speaker that you could recommend that would give the audio a new lease of life? You know what? A lot of little portable receivers that don't have necessarily the best audio, often I will recommend simply using a good old pair of amplified PC speakers. A lot of them have just the right little connector for the audio, and they work really, really well for portable radios. And I've used a pair of Logitech speakers here for a long time with my portable radios. Even my DX398, my Radio Shack DX398, which is the ATS 909, has the speaker is actually not working well, which is a known problem for that. And basically, by using that, it brings amazingly cool audio, and it works really, really well. So you know, a pair of PC speakers, of computer speakers, is surprising, especially when they're good quality. They're very, very, very nice to have as speakers, especially for portable radios, because portable radios don't usually have enough power to drive a speaker on their own in the output, because often the output is an output for earbuds or earphones. So by having amplified speakers, usually works better for portable radio, for sure. So, and now for a word from our sponsor. Yep, that's pretty much it. So cheers, everybody. I'm thinking a glass of vodka and cranberry juice, and which kind of feels nice. Next, maybe tomorrow, I'll have my beers. Fastload gave me a really nice box of beers. It's half-meter beer, and it eight beer bottles, 8 different beers from Belgium. Really, really nice. So take care, Big Daddy. It was nice to have you on board, and we're here for that. You know, when people have questions, I can tell you that it's cool for Dad, because we're a great bunch of people that like helping each other. And you know, like we just said, we are in the we've all been you know, beginners at some time, at some point in our life. And it's kind of cool, you know. Ernie Turner, hey there from Australia, VK3DET. Nice to have you on board, Ernie. Pretty cool. My initial plan was to start a hobby with a tabletop as an S2000, but because of the budget, I'm thinking of portable or SDR. Should I save the money for the S2000 or start from something cheaper? Okay, here's the thing. If you are, and so, by the way, I'm sorry I saw your question earlier, but I forgot to answer it. And by the way, if anybody ask a question and I didn't answer it, you can just post it again. No problem. I sometimes go over a question, and I don't mean to not answer it. It's just that, you know, it comes on. It just goes out of my mind sometimes. If you are tech, you know, good with technology, and a software-defined radio is not scaring you in using it and making the the configurations on your PC or your computer, for the price of an S2000, I would probably get an SDR instead, because you'll have, I think, for the same amount of money spent, a lot more bang for the money. That said, you got to remember that an SDR works using a PC or a device, a computer of some sort. Although you can use it with, you know, like a portable phone, like mine. I often one of the things I often do is use you know, SDR Touch on my phone to basically have really get portable on my software-defined radios. It's something that you need to have, you know, you need to have a computer all the time. So it's not necessarily always a good thing. Also, what you got to remember is that a software-defined radio requires a minimum amount of knowledge of computers to use, and that is, you know, for some people that will be probably the breaking point, the problem, because the computer side of it will maybe kind of not be easy to set up for everybody. But if you are okay with PCs and computers, it could be a better idea to buy the software-defined radio than to buy the S2000 tabletop. That's pretty much what I would say. Bristol Channel Radio says KBS, current broadcasting system on 3955 from Wolferton, UK. Manny CV, take care. Bob T, nice to have you here. Greetings from snowy, icy Northeast Ohio. It's that's what's coming over here a little later. Purchased an SDR Play RSP1A recently, and I'm learning how to use it with Mac software. I have to rely on an indoor antenna, however. So okay, and are you having fun? Have you you got it working well on your Mac computer? Because the SDR Player SP1A is actually a very, very good SDR. For sure. CRI on 6175. So let's check it out. 6175.
O Biro Político do Comitê Central do Partido Comunista da China convocou hoje uma reunião para debater as sugestões de revisão da Constituição. O secretário-geral do comitê, Xi Jinping, presidiu.
What is that in Portuguese? Sounds like Portuguese. I believe this is Portuguese. And channel radio at 22 is in Portuguese. Not bad in my language recognition of shortwave stations. So that's Portuguese. Pretty cool. KCRI Dragon Vomit on 6605. It's actually 6604, and it was probably it's just ended. Probably it was probably the Gander Vomit for sure. Hello there, Mad Radio DXer. Nice to have you here. F.O. Welsh, hello there. Says, hey, Joe, thanks for the show. I've been researching unsolved crimes along highways between Ottawa and Montreal. I was wondering if you or others have ever heard of strange, suspicious things on local CB. Apart from cursing or, you know, things like that, I don't really hear much lately on the CB bands, basically. And do you have something that kind of tells you that maybe somebody was be using CB radio for the perpetration of some kind of crimes along the highways? Nice to have you here. You know, actually, CB radio and every types of radio can just really be used for anything. You know, pretty sure. So MDK2 should be back by 2300. So take care, and hopefully we'll still be online at 2300. Okay, Bob. Not too much luck. Have you got it? Have you got it working at least, and tune around, or even that is, you know, that's the biggest problem of an SDR. It's always that. It's the learning curve of using it. You know. Josh Evangelo, nice to have you on board from Chesapeake, Virginia, and listening to some digital on 14075. A lot of digital stuff in the amateur modes. You're making me think of something, isn't? Trying to remember. I think 2200 hours. There was something from out of Chesapeake, Virginia. So, Richard, yeah, I kind of heard it when I was on when CRI left. Richard, when Radio Romania left, sorry, on 6170, and I kept it there, I could hear that there was something with the interval signal just above it. Max Edstrong, nice to have you here. Greetings. Pretty cool. What else do we have? William Helms, nice to have you on board from Florida. Jerry is listening to on TARS, the net on 37 to 55. Let's see if I can hear something here. 3755, lower side band.
That's where we're going, and you see it once in a while. So thanks for checking it out. And reading Creed, X-ray Delta Juliet. Go ahead. Yeah, it's reading X-ray Delta Juliet 6 is Rockport.
I'm sorry about that, Mad Radio DXer. I was moving. You know, I sometimes I'm so far in the chat room that I kind of go a little fast. So you know, it could happen that I'm missing out on somebody. I'm so sorry, Mad Radio DXer. At least I did see you. Man. By the way, you guys in Australia are apparently having some really, really warm weather. We've been seeing that in the news here. You guys have been really having some incredibly hot weather down there in Australia. Here it's different. Here we had one of the coldest holiday season in a very long time. I don't remember last time that was so cold, you know, between Christmas and New Year. Almost always minus 20, minus 25 Celsius. It's crazy. David Arden says, as far as he's concerned, everything on CB is strange. In CD Video says hello from Windsor, Ontario. Hello there. Nice to have you on board. What is the data signal on 6505? 6505. What is over there? Not hearing anything, but I am hearing talking of Chesapeake, Virginia. I'm hearing Chesapeake, Virginia on 6501. The weather broadcast.
Synopsis for the Southwest North Atlantic, including the Bahamas. Synopsis: a cold front in the Gulf of Mexico will move across Florida this evening and extend from 31 north, 72 west to East Cupid Sunday.
So this is weather broadcast from Chesapeake, Virginia Maritime Station, 6501 upper sideband. Okay, Bob. One thing to be careful about, there are two things I would probably give you as advice. Because you have control over these software-defined radios of how sensitive they could be. You can push the RF gain, for example. Be careful not to push it too high, because it's going to work against you. Sometimes when you push the RF gain too high, what happens is the receiver kind of overloads, making it crappy in performance. The other thing is to make sure that you don't have too much noise coming from the computer into your software-defined radio. So you might want to check out how you can maybe lower the noise. If you use a portable Mac, you might notice that by removing the power cord and using it on battery, sometimes the noise is lower. So all sorts of little things for sure. 14075. Well, actually, Josh Evangelo, there's 14076, which is JT65, Juliet Tango 65, and there's 14074 that is FT8. And I've noticed that since FT8 became popular, there's a lot less people on JT65 on 14076, and a lot more people on FT8 on 14074, because the contacts are much faster. So KD5TTZ says military on and off 8985 USB today. Oh, that's an interesting frequency to monitor. Should check that out. So thanks, Bobby. I'm gonna update my software. WJSTX software just moved to 1.8 stable. Cool. I'm gonna download the latest version. Richard Cook says buzzer very weak in the UK for 625. Let me just check it out here. I'm gonna try 5450 first of all. Oh, wow. Really strong Royal Air Force from the UK for me.
Your secondary HF is 88901, Charlie Mike Bravo Sierra Air.
This is 5616. Aeronautical Communications. Look at that, lots of comms. Lots of communications from lots of communications on the aeronautical band. 5550 is New York. 5616 I believe is Gander, Newfoundland, Canada. Let's try the buzzer, just for the fun of it. I haven't heard the buzzer in a long time. 4625. Let's check it out. Absolutely no sign of the buzzer. I haven't heard the buzzer since I think it was October when I heard it, and I haven't heard it since. Somewhere in October. Yeah, Jerry, another cold snap. It's going to be about -20. But we're going to be down back. You know, it's incredible. And this is to give you an idea of how Montreal, Canada is. It was +10 today. +10, around 50 Fahrenheit. And we're going to have snow tonight and tomorrow, and it's going to be -20 tomorrow night. It's just crazy. And we'll have a feet of snow, about a foot of snow by the end of tomorrow. Just crazy. 37 Celsius, but Melbourne was over 40 degrees. Wow. That is really hot. I don't know how you guys can stand that. I'm at 30 degrees Celsius and I just go crazy. So imagine that. Imagine that. No problem, Bob. And you're at the right place for questions if you need. I'm sure some in the chat are probably using Mac computers with their SDRs. Maybe they can help you out a little bit. Ethel Welsh says criminals acting as truckers use highways as dumping grounds, and there's always rumors of groups that I believed it, but if true, they could use CB communications. They could, because I mean truckers use a lot. Typically, 80% of the communications on CB that I hear are from truckers, basically. Yeah, PSK 31 on 14070. Which is also very nice. That's a nice mode also. I'm amazed how I remember the first time I heard PSK 31 with Fastload, and at the time we tuned and it was this steady tone, and I remember kind of telling ourselves, well, yeah, that looks like local interference or something. And I was playing around with the modes and I didn't know what I was doing really, and I accidentally came to PSK 31 and I started seeing text appear on my screen. I was like, man, that's not local interference. It's a digital mode. But PSK 31 is a great mode. Great mode. Good night, Daxfar 74. It was nice to have you on board. And there's another show tomorrow. Another show tomorrow. Mass Hysteria, great channel. Did you stop doing this shortwave radio for beginner series last year? Couldn't find part 3. How many did I do? 2 or 3? I have regularly get people saying, hey, I'd like you to restart that. And we'll be checking that out. You know what? I've moved one of my shows and the tech shows that was on Thursdays to the Tuesday range. And I was thinking of maybe using the Thursday time, that if I have some time that day to do it, kind of do a return of the little 1 hour shows of, you know, shortwave radio for beginner. I get a lot of people that are asking me, man, these are great and you should continue. Would like to see more of those and have more of those appear on the channel. So we will definitely will be looking at probably extending that and having these shows come back, because they definitely, you know what, I looked back to my first one about a couple of weeks ago, and the reason why is because somebody had posted a comment below the video, and I saw the video and it's like, oh yeah, that series that I was doing, and I looked back and it was like, yeah, that's kind of nice, and it's kind of cool because it's really explaining to the newbie, to the beginner radio, you know, and I think there would be nice to have it for sure. PLF radio, can you hear the pip or squeaky wheel? I believe I've never heard any of them, honestly. KC Red Dragon, weather facts on 6340, which is from Boston, I believe. And David Arden says, I live near Atlanta and it does get hot here in the summer, but not usually over 30. Yeah, here it's like 30. You know, in the summertime here we have, you know, Montreal's tropical in July. I mean, we have anywhere from 25 to 30, up to 32, 33 Celsius in the summertime. It's totally normal here. Likely it's totally normal to have minus 25 in the winter also. Bristol Channel Radio says, just about hear the buzzer here tonight, but it seems to have got a lot weaker over the last year or so. You know what? I don't know if they've played with the power maybe of it, because the buzzer on 4625, although not regular, so it's not something I would hear every night, it's something I would still hear quite regularly. And you know, I'm trying to figure out the shortwave propagation conditions of this winter versus the ones of last year, or my noise level, which for me is, I would guess, pretty much the same this year than last year. And I've definitely been almost unable to hear the buzzer in 4625 throughout all of winter, basically. So it's pretty crazy. Dan 805 says something on 6175 from North Carolina. Sounds like 2 transmissions at a time. 6175 is CRI, China Radio, in Portuguese at this time. Message Terry says, also man was looking forward to the antenna. Yeah, I did not come to the antenna one. And I promise I'm going to do more of those. Now that I have a little more time. Thomas Taylor says, even old timers like beginners stuff because it's a refresher. Absolutely. And you know what? Even people that really know, are very knowledgeable about the hobby, when you start listening or you start watching something that is basic, you still sometimes pick up little things here and there that are like, oh, that's why this or that, that I wondered why, or oh, I didn't know about that little thing, you know? And you always get that from time to time, that little something, which is pretty cool. So pretty amazing. 4416 weather facts. Casey Red Dragon says. Josh Evangelist says, Sporadic E stuff this winter has been awesome. I've heard a few Sporadic E, Skip. but not a lot. The one that was kind of cool, it was the one on Christmas Day that I've received. Was kind of cool, really, really strong, and I could hear a lot of stations. The 10-meter band was open. I was hearing some FT8 and some JT65. Heard a few upper sideband, single sideband transmissions in the 10-meter band. Was really, really nice. So Radio Man 881, take care, and yeah, tomorrow another show, 2000 hours UT. So Ernie, first of all, Ernie, if you want to have a lot of info on that, the solar cycle, tomorrow is going to be an entire show devoted to the solar cycle, how it works and everything. Now, to answer your question, we're still in cycle 24. We're still in the old cycle that's gradually going down. So NASA actually released a forecast this week. They hadn't done that in a little more than a year now. And it's going to be very interesting. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about all sorts of possibilities because, let's face it, we think about maybe what's going to happen, but we aren't 100% sure because our knowledge of the sun isn't that great. But it is better than it used to be. So we are still in cycle 24. We're still in the downward spiral of cycle 24. And technically, the first spots of the new cycle, if the cycle follows its regular curve, because that's the thing, the solar cycle is 11 years, it's an average, sometimes longer, sometimes smaller. I think the longest or the biggest cycle they've seen is 17 years. The smallest one was 8 years only. So if it follows a 11 year, we should start seeing the first sunspots of the cycle 25, the next cycle, in 2019. But listen in tomorrow because there's an interesting twist to this one, which is very, very curious, and it's the fact that basically there have been speculations of the sun's geomagnetic field being so weak that some researchers are saying that maybe there could be a solar cycle with very little or no sunspot because it is now so weak that it would have difficulty crossing the surface of the sun, which makes the sunspots. So it's going to be interesting tomorrow anyways if you want to learn more. Rob Asbury says, what SDR are you using? Hardware and software. I've been a shortwave listener since the mid-70s, but sold my radios in the NRD 545 Drake R8. Oh man, these were amazing. When a major shortwave broadcaster stops service, is it worth buying an SDR? If you are tech literate, because an SDR is always that side to it, for a relatively small amount compared to your NRD or Drake radios that cost a lot of money, for a relatively small amount you'll have something that is very, very nice and very, very good. And even though major shortwave broadcasters either stop or are not necessarily broadcasting to, say, North America or a certain region of the world, there's still a lot of things to listen to on the shortwave bands, and I think it's worth it. Honestly, I think it's worth it. Really. So, but technically the cycle is supposed to start somewhere around 2020. Nicholas, nice to have you here. KD5TTZ says, come on, Jill, stop teasing. Hey, Fastload, nice to have you on board. I'm having vodka and cranberry juice. Still got your half meter of beer intact to eventually open up. So yeah, Contact is good. I actually saw it this week. It's funny that you guys are talking about it. I actually stumbled across Contact, I think it was on Wednesday night, and I was going around the channels, and I was happy to just get it at the beginning It wasn't very far off. It was at that when I got it. It was, you know, the when her dad dies, and she goes up to her ham setup and tries to call her dad on the amateur radio bands to see if she can contact him. And I got it from there and on. And you know, for anybody that is radio related, and for me that is also interested in space and astronomy, it is, you know, a good movie. It's still a very good movie to watch, for sure. John Tinkin says, thank God for FT8. I can still work a little DX, and hopefully we're near the bottom. And you know what? FT8 is fun for that, because I have to say that in sometimes when there's not a lot of stuff to listen to, I actually tune to AM bands in FT8 mode or GT65, and pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. Nicolas has got massive increase in broadcast range from his medium wave transmitter, longer cable antennas. No, Christmas is, for me it's Christmas year long, fast lot. Actually, this weekend, I still have my Christmas tree here, because I usually keep it until the 15th of January. And the reason why, for me it's not a Christmas tree, it's kind of a winter tree. So for me it's like, it's still, you know, I like it because it's colorful in the moments where it's just gray and cold outside. So I kind of like it. And so what I do is I kind of keep it until about mid-January. So I'm gonna take off the decorations this weekend, probably Sunday. Mike Smith, nice to have you on board. And my SDR, okay, the SDR that I'm using is the Afedri, as Amanda Reader DX is saying, the Afedri, AFEDRI, and this software is HDSDR that I'm using. So pretty interesting. What else do we have here? So take care, KD5TTZ. It was nice to have you on board. Tomorrow, yep, 2000 hours UT, absolutely. We're going to be here again, and we're going to have a big discussion of solar activity. Asbury says, thanks, I regret selling those radios, but SDR is tempting. I miss the good old days when the bands were packed up. You know, anybody that's been on shortwave, you know, listening to shortwave for a long time, of course, do miss those days. You know, I miss those days where turning on the radio and you had so many signals to listen to. You just didn't know where to, you know. I remember so many times tuning the bands and saying, oh, okay, it's 0-100. I have the choice of Israel and Radio Berlin and Voice of Russia and Radio Canada and Radio Sweden, and all in English at the same time, and you're like, which one will I listen to tonight? That was the good old days. Thomas Taylor, I used to have a telescope, Thomas. I used to have a 6-inch refractor, and did a lot of astronomy with that, including when I was younger. My dad had his cabin up north where the sky was pitch dark, and there were like so many you know, stars in the sky. It was just amazing. I still, you know, I don't have a telescope, but I still do kind of a little bit of astronomy. I have a pair of binoculars that it's surprising, you know, people use binoculars for things around the ground, but it's funny because I use my binoculars mostly for looking at the sky, and sometimes for you know, I live in a big city, so the sky here is rather you know, bad to look at. There's too much light around me, but with a pair of binoculars, sometimes you you know, you can get here in Montreal with a pair of binoculars, I can see about magnitude +6, +7. So sometimes to watch some of the weaker stuff, and we'll look up at the sky with the binoculars. Richard, well, the low solar flux for the summer, you know, if you look at last summer, I don't expect this coming summer to be much different, because basically we are going to be at the you know, much higher. The solar flux last summer was like, you know, 70 or 80. This time around maybe it's going to be like 70, 65, 70. But you know, we got to live with it, and we got to understand that the higher frequencies are not going to propagate. Solar flux is so low, and the conditions are so bad for higher frequencies. Today I was trying to get the station from Madagascar, forgot the name of the station, on 17640, and it was barely making it here. I could just barely see a signal, and that's it. And I've heard it so many times. Rock Ristorante says, in Sweden we keep our Christmas trees until tomorrow. I'm moving to Sweden. Everybody here is telling me, hey, remove that tree. Hernie says, any chance of Mr. Paul making an appearance? You missed the best appearance. At the beginning of the show, he was here for like at least 10 minutes. And really was... and, you know, now he's sleeping, and I don't like to kind of go and kind of wake him up just for that. So, cross your fingers that maybe he's going to wake up and come over and say hi. Calvin, nice to have you on board. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Nice to have all of you here. Thomas Taylor says, I find that lots of radio enthusiasts have the same hobbies, including astronomy. I have an 8-inch Dobsonian. You know, I think it's just the fact that I think it's the fact that we are technical. We are scientific and technical at the same time. I mean, we don't just, you know, shortwave radio, for a lot of us, it's not just turning on a radio and tuning that little dial, you know, and trying to find something. It's more than that. It's going outside, putting up an antenna, trying things. So I think shortwave listeners interested in radio, which is electronics, tend to like the scientific areas around it. So, you know, it's the same thing for amateur radio operators. Absolutely. I do think there's a lot of us that have the same kind of hobbies, basically. I was thinking, I love astronomy so much, I was thinking actually of creating a YouTube channel for astronomy and doing live shows talking about astronomy. I think that'd be very, very interesting. Of course, it would reach a very specific audience, but, you know, like here, one of the things I'm amazed here is, for a topic that's very, very specific, shortwave radio, it's pretty amazing the amount of people that I get to watch here. You know, I guess my brother asked me a question at Christmas, and he said, and he told me he was amazed at, you know, like how many people I get in this channel, because we were talking about my channels, and he was like, wow, this is crazy, you know, getting so many people watching on a very, very specific thing that is shortwave radio. And I said, well, I think that's the thing. It's so specific that it's harder to get anything about it. So everything that you do that talks about it, automatically tons of people are interested, because there's not that much going on. And, you know, there's not a lot of people doing live shows like I do about shortwave. I mean, there's Tom, Hammerhead 88, that I know that he does some live stuff. You know, I do this, which is the, you know, blabber about radio for many hours. There's really not much more than that. And I think that's the trick. And, you know, maybe an astronomy channel would do the same kind of thing. Talking about astronomy is very specific to people that are interested in space and all of that. Gary Finley, nice to have you on board from Florida. Thank you very much for the nice comments. Yeah, light pollution is such a darn big problem. And oh man, Steve, you know what? I still remember the first time I saw Saturn in my telescope. Back then, I had a small, a very small, you know, a cheap telescope from like Sears. Those things that say that they can, you know, make things 600 times bigger or whatever, and actually it's false advertising pretty much. But still, I had that, and I was watching the sky with that. And I still remember the first time ever that I saw Saturn in a telescope. And I started running up the stairs like crazy, because we would live at the second floor, and yell at my brother, "You gotta see this," because it's indescribable seeing by yourself Saturn and the rings. Even if it's a small little blob, you still see Saturn and you distinctly see the rings. And I'll never forget that summer night, that summer evening, somewhere like in 1984, 89, 85, around that area, 84, 85. Man. Radioactive says, last night I saw the MUF at Boulder was at 4 megahertz. You know, you gotta take that with a the MUF tends to be, what is this on 46, 35? That's interesting.
Desirable trait.
4636 upper sideband. Some people talking. I would guess it could be a some form of a MarsNet, the military auxiliary radio system. So you know, but like I said, you know, it might be 4 megahertz above your head, but you gotta always remember one thing, is that the MUF of a signal you're receiving is from some other space. So for example, if you want to listen to Europe, well, technically the MUF that you'll use is not the one over your head, but the one somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean. So, you know, depending on where you're listening and what signal is coming from what area, you got to also take that into account, for sure. And like I have said many times, the maximum usable frequency just above your head is not something that's useful, because the signal you're receiving ain't falling from up there, it's falling from an angle somewhere around you. So that's where you should be looking for the maximum usable frequency. That said, shows you how there's not a lot of activity. I was reading in that NASA update, I was reading how they were saying that, you know, the ionosphere is much thinner this year, and it's just crazy. Nicholas says, I feel very insecure when people are talking about me and I don't know what they're saying. That's why I got a parabolic microphone and a couple of HF bugs. Oh man. You know, very low frequencies. Apart from the sounds of the earth and all sorts of whistlers and stuff like that, there's not a lot of stuff. I've never really done much in the very low frequency range, like, you know, below, say below 100 kilohertz, basically. Rock Ristorante says, that's right, Thomas. I'm both a radio amateur and amateur astronomer. Yeah, pretty much. Strong digital link signal on 4 megahertz right now. Yeah, there's a lot of those. On 4 megahertz band, there's a lot of stuff. Robert Prosper, nice to have you here. Shortwave, ham radio, astronomy, spelunking. You know, there's a lot of stuff. I think there's a lot of things that unite us. Jet Simon says, I do a lot of astronomy on the beach, study of heavenly bodies. Yeah. I can bet you don't need telescopes to see some of these heavenly bodies. Richard says 7780, very strong. Let's try it out here. Can I hear it well? Well, not very good here. Pretty amazing. Really not very good. It's there, but not that great. I'm amazed at what's on 4636.
Echo.
4724, really strong with U.S. Air Force numbers. You know, this is what I was telling everybody a little earlier. The SDR is fun for that because, you know, I was looking at this, I saw this here, and I was like, oh, what's that? Then you see something here, so it's like, oh, what's that? You just click on it, and I gotta say, the software-defined radios are amazing for that because it's really, I would never, you know, on my ICOM, if I would have found this, say an example, by tuning around, I find this signal on 4636. Well, when that is happening, I would not know that there's something on 4724. So I'd be just listening to 4636 and not be curious about somewhere else. And, you know, I gotta say, software-defined radios are fun for that. The visualization of signals, which is really, really cool. And I would say that 4536 is probably some Mars note. Oh yeah, Jerry, weather here is going to be something. You know, right now I don't know what's the weather, but it's like just look at the, you just look at what's the temperature right now here. So temperature reached 10 degrees Celsius today. It's right now +5. Wow, in Ottawa, which isn't that far, it's -7. This is crazy. The temperature is supposed to drop real fast tonight. And we're supposed to have anywhere from 15 to 30 centimeters of snow. So here, from what I see, is 20 to 30 centimeters of snow, with winds that will be up to 40, 50 kilometers per hour. So the temperature is going to be, you know, right now it's +5 Celsius, which is about 40 Fahrenheit. And tonight is going to be -10. And in the night of tomorrow night to Sunday, it's going to be -23. And in that, now it's raining, but in that 24-hour period, we'll have 1 foot of snow on the ground. Crazy weather. Crazy Montreal. Crazy Montreal. Brett Wayne's got a 4-inch telescope. Cool. Cool. Oh man. Ernie Turner says, from memory in 1986, about 3 a.m., saw Halley's Comet, was overhead and massive, was amazing. Absolutely. Absolutely. So Sheldon sharing some interesting ham radio D expeditions, which are very nice, by the way. I like the expeditions because there's so many cool spots around the world that you can, for just you know, a couple of days or a couple of weeks, you know, listen to exotic countries. So thanks for sharing, dxnews.com. Great website for that information, absolutely. And Sheldon is, of course, the head honcho at the Canadian International DX Club. And it's the, of course, a Canadian club, radio-related club. There's a bulletin every month called The Messenger. And it is super interesting. It has tons of details of radio, so you can actually get that information at CIDXclub@yahoo.com, I believe. CIDXclub@yahoo.com. And you can ask for a sample copy to see what the bulletin looks like. It's an electronic publication, and it is $10 a year for being a member of the Canadian International DX Club. And it's not just for Canadians. There's full of information about radio for anybody. Do I remember my first QSL card? Absolutely. WYFR. My first QSL card. WYFR. I remember reading my Radio Shack Realistic DX100 had a nice little manual, and one of the pages was QSL cards, and they actually explained how to do a reception report to get a QSL card. And my first target was WYFR in Okeechobee, Florida. And well, you would send them to Oakland, California, because that's where the office were, but their transmitter site was in Okeechobee, Florida, which is the one that WRMI is using right now. And so WYFR is the first QSL. And the second one, which was very impressive and which really made me go crazy, was KBS World Radio, which is actually at the time was simply called Voice of Korea. And I remember when I got the QSL in that nice big envelope that had these two little round things where there was a little thin cable that would go around to open the envelope and everything. They had a QSL, they had all sorts of little things, pictures. I was totally amazed. I mean, the first time you get I mean, come on, you're a 13, 14-year-old boy that is listening to the world, and suddenly you start getting these nice big envelopes from all around the world in your mailbox. I mean, how cool can that be? I can tell you that. Take care, 26BT7000. It was nice to have you on board. M0WAO73. You're back tomorrow, by the way. David Arden says his first QSL was from HTJB. Hey guys, what are the first QSL cards that you guys have received? Let's share that information together. For sure. No, I didn't check tonight, Man Radio DXer, if anybody was relaying me on any frequency range. Last time was 5010. Somebody was relaying me on that frequency, but I don't know. It could be on multiple frequencies. But I usually get somebody that tells me, "Hey, you're being relayed." So I guess maybe I was not tonight. Maybe tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe a cool and honest and very nice pirate somewhere out there might say tomorrow, "Hey, let's put this guy on the air." Who knows? Patrick Manny, hey there, says 72 Fahrenheit yesterday, 27 Fahrenheit now, and snowing. That's a pretty big difference. Steve in Australia says CHU Canada. Wow. David Arden says, I'm glad I'm in Georgia. We will go just below freezing, but no snow. But when you live in Montreal, snow is like, so it's nothing. Rock Restaurant says my first QSL card was from Radio Riga, Latvia. They have transmissions in Swedish. Wow. Melvin Witcher, nice to have you here. Gary Finley says 18 Celsius here. Pictures of snow are really pretty. Well, I can send you I can send you tons of pictures of snow. Oh man. The River chat is silent at the moment, so there's not a lot happening. There's not a lot happening. The Rotavelli, nice to have you here on the IRC chat. Yeah, no point in the cold if it doesn't come with snow. Absolutely. Robert Prosper says New York City came close to 60 today, and will drop like a brick over beginning in 12 hours or so. Yeah, you guys are gonna get that cold front that's coming through. It's gonna really freeze our ass off. Rob Asbury says, my first QSL card, Radio Sofia in Bulgaria. Ah, man, I got 5 or 6 Radio Sofia QSL cards, if not more. Lou Rubens, nice to have you here from Tampa Bay, Florida. Sheldon says his first QSL card from Radio RSA, Voice of South Africa. His second was Radio Baghdad, Iraq. I have never received from Radio Baghdad. I asked for a QSL maybe 3 or 4 times. Never did get anything back. But in that one of the stations that I had tried, one of the stations I tried the most and was so happy to receive a QSL card at some point was Libya had a station called Radio Jamahiriya in the 80s. And I remember sending, I think I sent 10 reception reports in about a year and a half. And the last one, I got a QSL card with a little rainbow on it and still remember it. Radio RSA had some beautiful QSL cards, really beautiful ones. I have maybe 10 QSL cards. The one that I love about Radio RSA in South Africa that I will always remember fondly is the one that is the reception report on the 11-meter band frequency of 25790 that I would hear, and that gives you guys an idea of how high the solar cycles were in the 80s. I mean, 25790 was like a regular signal in Montreal in the mornings around 1500 UT. Amazing. 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 Yeah, snow and wind, snow. They can create some static discharges on a very long antenna for sure. Just saw this on the local ham for sale site. A Sony ICF 2010. Whoa, $800. God, that is expensive for an old radio like that. Hey, Danny. Yeah, we all miss Radio Australia. Actually, it was last year. They disappeared, what, at the end of January of 2017? That was a big loss. That was a really big loss, I can tell you that. Richard Cook says, aviation QSL card from Ireland. Cool. Cool. That's a nice QSL card to get. Should we do some weather facts? We'll be checking that out. We'll see if we can hear anything. Weather facts wise. So what do we have? Danny says 71 Fahrenheit, 91% humidity. Yeah, I don't like it when it's too humid. Mad Radio DXer, his first was WWV on 25 megahertz a few years ago, but when I started in the 80s, I only asked for program guides, and most likely the first was BBC World Service. Huh. BBC World Service. You know, the funniest thing is some of the stations that are that never update any information about you. And I could say I easily wrote thousands of letters when I was a teenager where I lived back then. And one of the things that's interesting is that some stations, when I moved, because some stations continue sending out program schedules, all sorts of details. And one of the problems is that when you move, I would actually politely send a letter saying, hey, I moved and my new address, my new postal address is where I used to live there. My brother would live next door. So when the new tenants arrived where I used to live when I was young, my brother told her, if you get letters at for Gilles de Tourneau from around the world, it's my brother, so you can give us the letters when you get some. And they lived there for about, I don't know, 10 years after I moved, at least 10 years. And just to give you guys an idea, 10 years after I moved from there, I would still be getting the latest schedules of Radio Cairo, or, you know, some Happy New Year cards or Merry Christmas cards from stations that I had received at the new address. And even though I told them, look, I have moved, so you could change your files, forget it. Now I would be receiving 2 New Year cards, because at the old one and at the new one, they would never make that link of, you know, it was just funny. And as to this day, because of course when my brother moved in after that, I didn't know anymore. You know what? Somebody there would receive today some letter from some station somewhere around the world at my name, and I would not even be surprised that someone somewhere might be still sending some kind of program schedule. Can tell you that. Yeah, microwave ham radio. Yeah, I've seen all sorts of experiments with microwave bands and everything for ham radio. And it's like the Earth, Moon, Earth stuff. Hey, Keegan, XN80Xer. Nice to have you on board from Arkansas. What else do we have? What else do we have? Between 27 and 29 Fahrenheit there in Arkansas. Nice. Tilly says, any tip on how I could find the Cuban numbers girl? If you mean, if you want to meet her in person, I don't think you'll be able to do that. But if you want to know where she is, one of the best websites that is for knowing any kind of broadcasts for pirate activity, including the Cuban number lady, which is HM01, preom.org, and I'll post the link here, is the place to go to, because that's where you'll have really the most details of what's I hated the chat room is jammed here. I don't know why it does that from time to time, but man, let me just put it back here, pop up, and here we go. And of course I've lost, and here we go. And that is the best website. And there you'll have not just the Cuban numbers, but you'll have every single transmission in real time of what's coming up in number stations. Priom.org, which is Priym.org. Priym.org. I actually did a video on this. It's really, really good. But if you want to meet the girl itself, yeah, that's going to be kind of difficult. Voice of Greece. Bobby's receiving the Voice of Greece. Oh, that's interesting. Radioactive says Sony CRF 320 going for $8.99 on eBay. But you know what, Radioactive? Look at it carefully. People are watching, nobody's buying. Any of all of those radios, the listing will go off and the radio isn't sold. That's why, you know, when you go to a ham fest and somebody says, well, you know, I'm selling at 500 because, you know, have you seen the prices on eBay? The immediate thing that you have to tell the guy is, yeah, have you seen the people on eBay sell it? No. They sell it at a completely crazy price. But I'm sorry, they're stuck with it and nobody's buying it. They aren't selling these. They are reposting, and very often you'll notice they're reposting all the time. And nobody's buying because it's too expensive. I would not pay $900 for a CRF 320, even though it looks cool, you know. Hey, I wouldn't even pay $900 for a used Kenwood R5000. So, which for me would be a better buy than that Sony radio, you know. So it gives you an idea. It's way too expensive on eBay. Way too expensive. So just look at the website, and you'll have all of that there. And you'll have, of course, all the number stations everywhere. UVB 76, the buzzer is on 4625 kilohertz USB. 4625. I tried a little earlier, but ain't hearing the buzzer. Ain't hearing the buzzer at all. And of course, if you enjoy what I do, a little last self-promotion. We're at 3 hours already in the show. PayPal donations are accepted. You can join me on join 8 people on patreon.com/radio and computers, where you can of course give me a little something, especially in it's even better in January, because in January the monetization is so crappy on YouTube that it's, I think, the best month to give a little something. But thanks for everybody that donated, and you know, I'm trying to reach out here to whoever out there is or has never donated to me and watches the show regularly, religiously for the past years, and love what I do. Why not think about it? You know, I take a lot of time, a lot of effort in doing this, you know, spending 3 hours blabbing away. You know, tomorrow, guys, I'm going to have a nice show about solar activity. I've, you know, taken notes and read tons of things to, you know, really make it interesting and, you know, have everybody learn more about it. So I really want to thank everybody that have donated. And if you haven't donated, and you like what I do and you can spare a little something, why not think about it? You know, if you like that. And thanks everybody that have donated. It's much welcome. Okay, what else do we have? Radio Guinea is coming in well on 9650. Huh, let's check it out here. Do I hear it here, up here? 9650. There's a weak signal. I can see a weak signal here, but too weak to do anything about. Let's check Voice of Grace. Nope, 31 meters is starting to get in the dumpster here, pretty much. Gotta say that. 5960. Very good signal from Voice of Turkey. If you guys want to listen to the Voice of Turkey in English, 5960 kilohertz. And while you guys are listening to the Voice of Turkey, I will go and get myself a third drink with vodka. I think there's just enough vodka left for the last one, so why not? And so this is the Voice of Turkey on 5960 kilohertz.
During the conversation with President Mohammed and Prime Minister Yusuf Shahid, Erdogan emphasized the belief that Tunisia would overcome its problems and extend the united as the process to ultimately named. Protests have hit several areas of Tunisia in recent days over price hikes and tax increases. The government is defending the measures as necessary to relieve a budget deficit that hit 6% of the country's GDP. Conveying his thanks over the hospitality during his last visit to Tunisia, Erdogan also understood that the country came following the death of Revolution Party found. Tunisia was the last stop on Erdogan's two-nation African tour, including Sudan and Chad in December. Foreign Minister Mary Çavuşoğlu pointed out a lack of mutual trust in Turkey in time, saying the board does not fully understand the challenges the country has been facing. In an interview with the East West magazine published on its website on 30th December, Mary Çavuşoğlu said,
Voice of Turkey, 5960 kilohertz. And hey, we've got a visitor. A little visitor that just meowed. Want to come here, man? Come here. We're going to check something. I saw a... yeah, here, a comment here. What's that? Can't read it. So, for anybody that wants to see Mr. Paul. Want to come over? I'm gonna have to get him. He's not gonna come out. Here goes. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Mr. Paul is back from his little nap, saying hello to everybody once again for the second time of the show. So if you don't want to donate to me, you can at least donate to the cat. How can you resist such a beautiful little cat saying hi to everyone? Man, maybe I should do that, you know, like have a 24-hour Paul the cat. Maybe I'd be a millionaire just because of Paul the cat. So voice of Turkey 5960 kilohertz. Nicholas says never have luck with the buzzer. It is difficult to receive, and you know, to give you an idea, I've heard the buzzer 4625 in October and I haven't heard it since. So pretty amazing. What else do we have? Bobby Burgess says 9650 is strong. Wow. I'm more northerly, so it's more difficult. Joe's monitor has a sunspot on it. Yeah, look at that. So I always, you know, strategically have to sit exactly in the right space, because or else I am not hiding the gazillion watt spot there that is actually is part of my look at that. Look at that. I think he's okay now. So, you know. When I go, sunspots appear. Rock Ristorante has wine in his glass. That's cool. Cheers. Cheers. I had no more cranberry juice, so I actually just put 7-Up. So it's vodka and 7-Up. Cheers, everyone. Oh, Nicola has a cat called Rosie. Have you seen the Cats in Radios group on Facebook? Is there really a Cats and Radios group on Facebook? Absolutely. I did not see that. 60 frames per second. Cat is looking at the spectrum readouts. Yep, absolutely. Wondering if there's any other cats out there in the world of radio. Natasha, nice cat. Natasha. Ernie says, Paul the Cat Show. Yes. So, Ernie, he's there just for you. And everybody loves cats. Bob has 3 cats. It's a long story. Cats and radio go together. Yeah, you know, it's kind of fun. You know, you're sitting down and listening to the radio and the cat's there. Pauvre petit chat. So, MDK2 says he was looking up at you like he wants a drink of your vodka. Actually, this cat wants to know what I eat and what I drink. And it's really bad because you know what happens is that I actually end up always showing what actually I am drinking or whatever, so you can just smell it and decide if you want some or not. Of course, he doesn't like alcohol, but look at that, man. Look at the guy. He's positioning himself and like, I want to, you know, want to be happy. Oh, yeah, man. Look at that. Look at that. So, oh, man. Look at that. This is incredible. These are the moments where you're like, oh, man, we're in love. Yes, I know we're in love. I know we're in love. And he loves it now. I'm talking to him. So everybody's saying hi to you. Everybody. You're a star. You're a bigger star than I am, actually. You know, people don't tell me, but actually they just watch the show because they want to make sure they could see a glimpse of Paul the Cat. So, you know, David Arden says his cat's name is Lucy. Her nickname is Shortwave. Ah, that's nice. That's nice. For those that know the cat for a long time, some of you know that originally, some of you are calling the cat DX. Because the first time that he actually showed up, I was on the balcony in the backyard in the Shortwave chat room. And I said, hey, a cat from nowhere just appeared. And somebody in the chat said, hey, let's call him DX. The cat comes from long distance. So it is his name, which is not the name that I actually I chose. Paul the cat is the name that the neighbor chose. This cat was the neighbor's cat. Take care, Sheldon. Have a nice lunch, and we're back tomorrow. If you are around, why not say hi? Tomorrow we're going to talk about solar activity, 2000 hours UTC. And amazing, we've reached the 100 plus viewers, and it's been maintaining itself at 100 plus throughout all the 3 hours, which is crazy when you think about it. People watching, really a lot of fun. Nicolas says, I have a few radios on my radar. The Sony ICF 6800W, Ethon Satellite 750, Radio Shack DX394. You know what? The Radio Shack DX394 I could have had for a really, really, really cheap price. They were selling it something like $49.95 or something. It was like almost. It was almost, you know, given away, and it is sad because it was at that time when I had no jobs, and I could not even spend $50 on a radio. And I remember looking at it and saying, oh man, for $50 I could have a DX394 in my home. And unfortunately, there are times like that in life. Hey David, yeah, he is a cute cat. Yeah, you are a cute cat. Everybody loves you. And it's not just a cute cat. Fastload, when he was here at Christmas Eve, just couldn't believe the fact that this cat is a party cat. He does not run away when there's like tons of people here. He wants to see everybody, and he wants to come over and chill with us. It's just crazy. This cat is amazing. Richard has Pyongyang week, but Pyongyang's there on 6400 kilohertz. It's a regular for you there, Richard. Pyongyang on 6400. I heard it the other day from a WebSDR. I think it was the I think I was using the Ukraine SDR on sdr.hu, and that's where I received it pretty well with some music on 6400. It's pretty amazing. So it's really cool. Christian Farland, bienvenue. Hello, bonjour, bonsoir. And nice to have everybody on board. Richard is also saying Voice of Korea coming in as well on 7570. Pretty cool. I don't, you know, I almost haven't heard North Korea in a very, very long time, honestly. Really, really. Actually, the Xer had names I had for cats over years. Alfie, Liz for Elizabeth Taylor, Larry, and Lorraine. Man, Lorraine, that's a... Here is Lorraine. I like that. Larry, I like Larry. You know what? With a name like Larry, you can almost like visualize the cat. Oh, that's a Larry. So, hey guys, we have a show tomorrow. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to take the rest of the evening relaxed and just enjoy a little bit of shortwave. I've got to also post my review of the latest build of Windows 10 on my tech channel, so that's going to take a little bit of time. So we're going to be back tomorrow at 2000 hours UTC. We're going to talk about radio, but also talk about solar activity. It's going to be an interesting show tomorrow. Bobby Burgess, not a shortwave radio question, but can an outdoor TV antenna got more than one room, or you need more antennas? What exactly do you mean by the question? Because an outdoor antenna will work with several TVs at the same time. An outdoor TV antenna go to more than one room, or you need more antennas? No, you can use the same antenna for several TVs in different rooms. It is going to work. You don't need to have separate antennas for different rooms and different TVs, for sure. Nicolas got a hint of Pyongyang on 7500. Okay. Thanks everybody. Thanks for being great fans, and it was really, really nice to have this above 100 viewers almost all the time. So see you tomorrow for those that can join us tomorrow at 2000 hours UT. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for those that donated during the show, by the way. And oh, this is cool, MDK2. Hope you're gonna talk to us about your loop and what you think and how it works. And I'm gonna check your videos. So thanks everybody for being here. Thanks again for being great fans. You know, I wouldn't be here. Man, he's losing a lot of hair. Wow, I got cat hair everywhere. So anyways, we without you there would be no shows, of course. So hope you guys enjoyed the show. See you tomorrow. And if you can't make it tomorrow, the next radio show will be next Friday, and 2000 hours Universal Time. Thanks everybody, and enjoy the rest of the day, evening, night, wherever you are. HJ3ZEN 73s. Nice to have everybody on board. Bye everyone.